So far, it's been a very busy campaign when it comes to the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld. For many drivers, it's been the difficult challenge of staying consistent. A mixture of Grand Prix circuits, super speedways, and of course the street circuit last seen at Belle Isle. But this time out, the drivers get ready to gear up for the 5th round of the campaign as they look to see if they can get in the conversation for the championships with a race at Suzuka. I'm Justin Prince alongside the booth for today's action, Ewan O'Leary, with our producer Hugo Wees as we welcome you to RaceSpotTV's coverage here from Japan. Ewan, so far it's been an entertaining season to say the very least. Lots of attrition though seen in turn at Belle Isle, with drivers looking to see if they can in turn bounce back in some cases, while in other cases to start the second half of the season today. We're going to see if they can start this part of the campaign off strong before they have to take that break to April.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a break since the halfway mark of the season, and we've got a little bit of time before the next round after this one as well, but we are very much stepping towards the second half of the season now. It's been an entertaining first half, but it's been all about Sean Campbell really in the overall Division 1 order of things, as I'm sure we'll see soon. Delta Sport at the top there, and it's just a case of who can stop him from here really.
Exactly, he's been the driver for Delta Sport all throughout the campaign, and he has been near untouchable. 3 straight victories on the trot at Imola, Daytona, and Belle Isle. followed by Team Fordzilla, Team Heusinkveld, German Sim Racing's 166 car, and Miniti Racing in the top 5. Remember, Miniti has started off the season in victory lane for Division 1 at the Nürburgring. Other teams looking to try and gain ground, the other German Sim Racing entry in the 127. Standard Nomad enters today, meanwhile, leading Division 2 in what's been a bit an up-and-down campaign. The interesting asterisk, though, in that is German Sim Racing's 246 win. They've been second or first in every round except for Daytona. That race at Daytona, the main difference between them and the points lead.
Absolutely, they didn't finish there, and I would argue that German Sim Racing are the stronger of the team. And after speaking to Jason Dilworth from Prestana Nomad, I think they've accepted a little bit that they're not the strongest team in Division 2, not fastest anyway, but they are the most consistent team, and that's helped them a long way in this season so far. But they are going to have stiff competition from German Sim Racing, maybe even Echelon Sim Sport there as well. It's still too early in the championship really to write anyone off here at this stage, but Prestana Nomad are certainly there because of their consistency, as they are in Division 3 as well, where they've been really consistent, but also very quick as well. They have managed a race win here in this category.
Indeed, in 2 straight second-place finishes, Rusty Spatulas, meanwhile, has quietly moved their way up to second. 3-1 Esports collapsed from the early 2 rounds of the season, where they were second both times, and in turn have scored 73 points and then 0 points the last 2 rounds. Echelon Sim Sports 345. Suzuka Racing Esports wants the top 5 as well in the conversation with World of Sim Racing team. Remember, the 351 had picked up the victory last time at Belle Isle in Division 3 after what was a topsy-turvy time over in the street circuit in Detroit.
It was a very difficult race for a lot, and we saw some very strange things as well, I've got to say, all those weeks ago. But yeah, it was an interesting race and a very good one for World of Sim Racing team, who really dominated that one. Really, they got the lead quite early on, and Prestana Nomad obviously gave chase to them, but got nowhere near them really by the end. It was another second place and a third podium in a row for the championship leaders there. So a good race at Belle Isle. I think it was a good addition to the calendar, but I think people will be very pleased now to step away from that real tight and twisty street circuit. It's not the only street circuit, if you want to categorise Bathurst as one, which I would hesitate to, but we'll go with it. We'll be visiting that one at the end of the season. But for now, they can put that behind them and get to some more wide open race circuits like Suzuka, Monza, Road America over the next few rounds. Very, very different to what we had a few weeks ago.
Qualifying just starting moments ago, by the way. German Sim Racing amongst those first to be on the racetrack, in fact, with Massimo Locatello leading the entire pack around the racetrack currently. Now they have 20 minutes to be able to set their fastest times, set the starting grid for today, all in the battle, see if they can get the important track position we've seen so critical in this series this season.
That is going to be even more of a factor here today at Suzuka. Really difficult circuit to even stay on the road on your own. I certainly find it very difficult. And there's no room for error around here, which means little room for overtaking at this circuit. So track position will be very important. And Massimo Locatello has shown us in the past that he can grab that track position and a pole position as well in the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld, with pole position back at the very first round of the Nürburgring. He showed us there that he is a great driver over one lap.
They'll keep an eye on Locatello as they head on to the Casio Triangle here. They're, again, one of the first drivers on the track, have the potential to set the first time up on the board, in fact. Entire session, and they decide not to do that. Intriguingly enough, instead, they'll let Enes Prizik in the 166 set a 159 flat.
I think that was mainly due to an off-track that Locatello picked up at Spoon Curve. I saw him go a bit wide there, and I did fear for him slightly that that would be an off-track, but it seems that it was, as Max Riedmuller makes his way over the line, new recruit for Miniti Racing for this season, on their defence of their title. It's staying very, very close, though, in these standings right now. Only 1/10 of a second between 1 and 2, and real, even smaller margins behind that.
Keep in mind, the InSim date is February the 18th, 2023, and as several drivers get up on the jacks, in some cases get some new rubber on their tires, they also are dealing with a very cool racetrack for this time of the year, keep in mind, it being February in Sim. Temperatures below 90 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temp for reference today. That is currently about 31 degrees Celsius, 24 degrees Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit when it comes to the air temperature. But the wind's also fairly gusty today. Keep in mind, there is a headwind when you go down the back straightaway today, so there may be a little slower speeds there.
A little bit, and it does help when you're in the slipstream as well with a headwind. It does help to tuck in, and you get even more of a benefit from that when you get that into the back straight. And I guess it will be similar for the front straight as well. I know it's not quite this. They're pointing in a similar direction geographically, so it's a similar effect there. But making things a little bit more difficult to control through the twistier bits, which is probably the worst straight round you could possibly have it around here at Suzuka. So it's going to be a challenging race either way, because as I mentioned, it's just such a difficult circuit, one of the most difficult in the world, but also one of the most rewarding as well to win a race around here, especially in a GT3 car, which I think is not the most enjoyable car to drive around this type of circuit. Will be very rewarding for whoever can cross the line first.
So one of the teams on board with now, this is Red Panda Racing. Before the week started, a few adjustments were made when it comes to the rotation of teams. Geeks Energy Sim Racing has 2 entries making their debuts today, as well as this car. Red Panda in their debut, so far 4th in qualifying. This is Carter Hutcherson, who is behind the wheel, the Canadian, looking to try and build up more speed to the Ferrari 159.2, not able to bump up it past his personal best.
I slightly feared actually that he was going to forget the rules there and just escape on the right hand side of the circuit, but seemingly just doing an in lap, and he'll go back out there for another couple of flying laps in about 5 minutes time. But yeah, some new names on the grid here, as we had in the GSI Endurance Series actually yesterday. Some new names as some people dropping out of the series, but some of those that didn't make it through pre-qualifying, some of the reserves able to jump in to those slots and fill up the grid a little bit, which is nice to see. Got comfortably over 40 cars here today, which is plenty to be racing with around here. Yeah, it's going to be good to see. Going to be a lot of traffic out there though, and traffic going to be very difficult to deal with for those at the head of the race, because there isn't really that many opportunities to overtake, even when you are lapping someone.
Had a penalty come over the bulletin. Vector Sim Racing and Quasar Sim Racing having an incident moments ago. Looking at Adam State, meanwhile, 264 Satellite Racing shows some good speed with both State and Washaleski this campaign. However, for them in terms of the points, looking to gain a lot of ground back up, to say the very least, when it comes to the 264. 16th in the standings after starting off the season with a second debuting at Belle Isle.
Yeah, they've gotten themselves off to a good start in the season, but Division 2 for me is where we see by far the most interesting championship situation, because first of all, I don't think the paciest team are leading the championship right now. No disrespect to Prestanda Nomad, but I think German Sim Racing on their day are quicker, but Prestanda Nomad, as we spoke about it before, have been that little bit more consistent. In the other 2 championships, I think the strongest teams are in the top places, and they haven't really shown any signs of weakness so far this season. But it's been a very topsy-turvy season in Division 2. I mean, even after the first race, Delta V Racing run away with that race at Nürburgring, and I can't remember who drove that race, but they were unbelievable, and they won the race by miles. I think finished about 5th overall. And I thought, well, you know, they're going to win the season easily now, but that's clearly not been the case. And it's just tossed and turned all throughout the season, probably going to continue to do so today.
They currently in the top 10 for his respective class. Right now, the top running Division 2 driver, German Sim Racing 246 by a mile, about nearly 2 seconds, just about. John Campbell, meanwhile, going to pick up the tempo in the 170 currently in the 3rd position. Still, about 10 minutes to work with on the clock. Campbell with clean traffic, no major hurdles up ahead on the road.
Not really. He's found that little bit of free track space, which is very important around here, as it is in any qualifying session. But Campbell very much has this championship, not one hand on the trophy, because it is already halfway, or only halfway through the season, I should say, but he does have a big lead, and he's looking very comfortable. Another one of those drivers, as I mentioned earlier on, not really shown any signs of weakness so far, still yet to finish off the podium, and he's got 3 wins in a row right now. This is even more wins in a row than Maniti Racing managed last season, where they really dominated the split championship through the 21-22 season.
Yeah, he's been near untouchable just about everything he's driven this year, and not just talking about in respect to this series, but he's been racing stock cars in such Racing League, for example, also seeing a race spot in VCO, where he's been a championship favorite in every car. The second that there was the indication that he was going to race in open wheel potentially, the entire field knew he was probably going to win by 10 seconds. I'm half joking there. Let me put it this way. When you have a driver like Campbell, it's hard to beat him speed-wise. He's shown track to track.
Certainly, it's really hard to beat, and in any field as well. He could compete in any field in sim racing, especially in a GT3 on iRacing. That's really his bread and butter. As he goes over the line and will go to the front of the standings now. A couple of tenths worth of an improvement for Sean Campbell, and the previous best set by Alessio at Centezone there has been toppled for Sabel Esports. It's Sean Campbell back on top again.
Nils May coming back into the pit lane for GSE Racing by ACI, looking for a bit of luck today, to the very least, as we take a look back at the 166. Still, there has been a warning given out to Ted Lowendick after contact with the 227 and 225 as referred to. Again, that's the situation with Vector Sim Racing's Ted Lowendick, Quasar Sim Racing Hydro car earlier on in the session. 2 other incidents are under review. So as we've crossed the halfway point for the qualifying session, I'd like to remind everyone that these drivers are competing for prizes throughout this campaign. Heusinkveld putting multiple pedal sets. Sim pedals, including the Ultimate Plus, including the base plate for Division 1, Division 2, and 3, picking up the Heusinkveld 3-pedal set Sim Pedal Sprint, the base plate this season. Those details seen in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Put it this way, they are really good pedals to have if you're a sim racer, let's put it that way.
Absolutely, and very much a prize that all of these drivers are going to be searching for. So yeah, it's great to have Heusinkveld on board once again here in the GT Sprint Series, and it's very much a good prize to be winning for somebody or some team in the coming weeks. But still a long way away from that. Still 4 rounds to go, and many weeks to come as well before that finale at Bathurst.
Keeping an eye on the German Sim Racing blue car, looking to try and find 4/10 of a second. Doesn't even find a couple 100ths more to bump up their personal best. Take a look over at Hutcherson, and for those who recognize the name, he's been very successful over the past year. He was the winner in the winter 24 hours of Nürburgring. He also ran the Petit Le Mans in 3rd split, won that respective run, did well in 2nd place for the Peachtree 3, which was the charity race held last year by iRacing. Put it this way, Hutcherson very much on the radar with how he is speed-wise over the past 3-4 years since he joined the service.
Yeah, good to see, and a nice livery as well, by the way, for Red Panda Racing. Hats off to them. Pit lane for them right now is 6.5 minutes to go here in qualifying, and going to need to find a little bit more to jump up from that 4th place, but good to have them on the grid. It's always good to have new teams on. I do enjoy seeing it, and no less for them. We look at one of the oldest teams on the grid, if you like, in terms of IVRA experience. Team Heusinkveld are hard to beat in terms of Club Sport Championships they've got in TCR, and indeed in this championship as well, GT Sprint Series, not last season but the season before. They were winners of it, and looking to do that again, currently 3rd in the standings.
Kelski trying to find a little bit of draft, 13th in the Division 1 qualifying overall currently. 159.16. That gets him in the top 10. That's how tight the qualifying session is, by a couple 100ths for some.
Yeah, you really don't need to find very much time to jump up the order. The top 23 are covered by a second right now, and that also covers the Division 3 current pole sitter Marco Silva for V-Racers, who's got 7 cars between himself and the next Division 3 contender. So that's very good news for them. And at the moment, I can't quite see where Preston and No Man's Division 3 team are, or indeed their Division 2 team. I can't see them anywhere, just for the moment. I can see the Division 2 team now. They're 18th overall and 6th in the Division 2 standings, but Yeah, it's currently a good pole position, good place to be for V racers at the top of Division 3.
The bigger the cushion you can build up, the better it is, to put it that way. Here's the thing when it comes, again, you mentioned about 7 cars the difference. Verco Esports, second in Division 3, is back in 30th overall compared to the 23rd. That difference in terms of their speed, about 0.3 of a second already in the qualifying session. So Silva doing a strong job this session and working on some draft, in fact, down the backstretch.
Certainly is. I might just be able to benefit from that. It's not one of the circuits where you'd really search for it too much, but you can take it if you can get it into the Casio Triangle now. The final couple of corners, Marco Silva was very, very loose through the 130R there and abandons this lap, comes into the pit lane. It's GSE Racing, I should say, third place for them that right now.
Interestingly enough, they started off the session with Nuno Costa and then switched to Marco Silva. Speaking of Division 3 drivers, Nick McLaughlin. 2 years ago, pretty strong in the PRL, still part of its esports group. Right now, trying to find some speed. He started off the session the 159.9s, but hasn't reached that mark since then. Several invalidated laps. He's also had Jeremy Gonsalves right behind him this time.
Yeah, great drivers, Nick McLaughlin. We've seen a lot of him on RaceSpotTV in the Precision Racing League in the last few iRacing seasons, over the last half year, 3/4 of a year also. It's been great to see him, and great character as well away from the races. Just improves ever so slightly there by 0.02 of a second, but he will get a position for it, jumping right up behind his teammates who are in Division 1. They're in Division 3. Yeah, Jeremy Gonsalves still 0.04 ahead as far as the bragging rights go within that team.
Lecterson again on debut in Ferren Panda Racing. Looking stellar. No one's really been able to touch his time too much, that he said in the first 3 minutes of qualifying, on his first lap, mind you. Since then, only 4 drivers have been able to jump past Red Panda Racing.
It's been very much the story of the last couple of qualifying sessions, actually. We saw it in the GSI Endurance Series yesterday, that the first laps are actually very important here, really, especially in these faster cars. Like GT3s and even faster that we had yesterday, of course. They're very important to be so quick early on, and that's exactly what Hutchinson was able to do, top 5. But they just seem to struggle to improve further from that as they get pushed down to 6th place on this lap right now.
And the interesting thing when it comes to Hutcherson and his drive-through, he considers himself an endurance specialist and a sprint race hider. Gonna be interesting since, it's called the Sprint Series. But there is the emphasis where he mentions his I rating in terms of when he was trying to grind, it dropped 2,000 I rating before 2021 ended. Immediately, his response essentially, per his bio, it's a prime example of why you don't just grind and go. Up he goes to 159.2s, not able to get to his personal best again.
And this is the problem. You go so fast that you're just not able to go any quicker anymore. And I think that might be a little bit of a problem for Alessio Centinez as well here for the Suzuka Esports team as well. In the BMW on board with them now. This is going to be pretty much last chance for them now, but they're going to need a big improvement to get near Sean Campbell, who has actually improved again in the last few moments. A 58.5 is now the target, needing 1/4 of a second here in this BMW.
Josie, lots of space, needs to be able to find 0.2 of a second to get up to Campbell. 50 seconds to go in qualifying. This is the last chance Santosi has if he can do it. You can already tell having to really roll the car slowly through Spoon Curb. That is a section. Expect to be an attrition spot today.
Certainly is. Wouldn't be their first IVRA pole, of course, for Suzuka Esports. Not even this season either. They managed it in the Club Sport Series at Interlagos back towards the back end of 2022. Looking for another one here. Slight lift off through 130R and then braking as late as you possibly can. This final chicane. Looking for the best exit possible and keep it tight to the right hand side as well, just to shorten the amount of distance to the line.
What is it? It's a 158.7. He gained maybe 1/1000th of a second, if anything.
Yeah, he does get within 2/10 of a second at least, but it's not enough for pole. Hardly a surprise, really. Sean Campbell on top again.
So checker flag waving, drivers have less than 3 minutes to complete their qualifying runs. 2:46, this is which trying to close things out strong. Top 4 overall in Division 2. 158.6. How about second best in qualifying from Division 2?
Wow, very impressive. It's very rare that you see that as well. Division 2 pole in second place overall. There's a scrape of the wall there for Adam straight towards the line. That will be third in Division 2, but they're a long way down from the leader in that class. What a performance that is from Adam Vukovic there. German Sim Racing beating their Division 1 car.
And Gregory Hobson going off the track, picks up an off track. That'll end off their qualifying run. He is also pulled to the side. Jansen Telski trying to complete his run. Ted Lowendick trying to keep things clean to close out qualifying after the warning given earlier in the session.
Let's see, on board as the checker flag is waving. And Ted Lowendick now making his way into the final couple of corners here in the Division 2 Porsche. Very much prioritising an exit off of the chicane there, really. We'll have a good speed towards the line. Oh,
and he ran out of gas.
Running out of fuel. Coughing towards the line. That's not going to be an improvement.
That cost him possibly any improvement. He was on track to gain a 10th before it started burping on the throttle. So with that, all drivers have completed the qualifying session. 1 minute to go until drivers have to make their way to the starting grid today, Ewan. So far, so strong for many teams. 44 entrants today ready to gear up for Suzuka.
Going to be very busy filtering their way through turn 1 and then the S's for the first time. Going to be quite a sight to see, and hopefully we do get everyone through cleanly, but the pole sitters in Division 1 and 2 looking very strong as far as this race goes. Sean Campbell and Adam Vukovic there with great qualifying laps and very deserving pole positions. They'll hope to take a lights to flag victory as well.
Remember, for those tuning in for the first time for this series, drivers also have to consider the strategy. The pit window today, now we're in 5 minutes to go on the clock to 45 minutes remaining. Maximum minimum pit stationary time of 60 seconds as the equalizer. Teams between driving changes and no driver changes today. In turn, the second half of the season is about moments away from getting underway here on RaceSpot for IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld coverage here from iRacing's virtual Suzuka circuit. With that, the drivers now get ready for the gridding procedure to get themselves warmed up for the pace lap, get themselves all situated and ready to go here from Japan. They'll have themselves some time to be able to check things over before they reach the official time and make sure their setups are all geared up and ready to go in the next few minutes or so. So with that, Ewan, today, it'll be important. You mentioned, for example, spoon curb and the troubles there. Where else do you see the potential of these drivers having the troubles, especially knowing how tight the racing could be at times today?
Yeah, it could be anywhere really. This circuit's so difficult in terms of just driving on your own, as we've seen in qualifying there, although we didn't see many drivers off on their own. But the first section of the course, from the first turn right the way towards the Degner curves, that's really difficult on your own. There's just no room for error around here, and there's no really room to overtake there either. If there is a move in towards turn 1, then they could stay side by side up through the S's and so on, but it's very difficult to do so, and it could be quite a frustrating race if you find yourself in the traffic.
4 drivers total picking up occurrences of penalties throughout the early parts of the session. 2 of them were warnings, 1 drive-through, 1 30-second stop and hold. Amongst those respective penalties, the 124 Absolute Motorsport Ace-Swift Jr. picked up a drive-through penalty after they towed outside their pit box in qualifying. 268 due to a registration issue. We'll have a 30-second stop and hold. Dustin Smith, main driver today. And 2 warnings, as mentioned, Ted Lowendick, but also Garrett Thompson, picking up warnings earlier today. With that, the drivers just a few minutes away from starting off today's round. Let's take a look at how those drivers will start this respective round. On the front row today, from Division 1, it's Sean Campbell putting up the fastest time, a 158.5. over Division 2 driver German Sim Racing Red's Adam Wolkowitz. Then it's about esports in third with Alessandro Santosi. Nils May picking up the top 4, one of his best qualifying runs of the year. Same can be said for Ingersoll Rand GT3 Sprint 2. 135 starts in 5th. Then it's Red Panda Racing on debut in 6th. Bex Riedmuller starts 7th with Dennis Brzic in the 8th position. Then it's the other Ingersoll Rand car, their Sprint 1 entry in 9th. Massimo Locatello lock steps in the top 10. Maurice Holteich starts in 11th, second in Division 2. Then it's Jansen Kowski starting off in the 12th spot. Ryan Wasilewski also looking to battle early on in the Division 2 spots in 13th. Then it's the Ford for Orbit Motorsports, Ethan Bass in 14th. David Lazzini starts in 15th today alongside Boris Egno Ovando for RSR by Butt Kicker. That's Johan Martin Mayer and then Floris Harsvord for Geeks Energy's debut from the top 18. Jason Dilworth back in 19th, Dunstan Smith in 20th will have to serve the penalty in the early stages today. Then it's Frederick Poches along with Aiden Rafi for Prestanda Nomad's Division 3 entry. Behind them is Ryan Hartinge alongside Jake Shurry for Eclipse Racing Esports. V Racers for the longest time did hold on to the Division 3 pole, but as just seen, they fell to second in the qualifying for the division. They'll start alongside the IVRA Liveries 5 sports car. That's Ted Lowendick and Simone Dinatel, top 28. Right at the top 30 overall, Prestanda Nomad's Division 2 entry, Team Heusinkveld's Splen Glatzel. Jeremy Gonsalves deep in the field today for Division 1, 31st position, the worst of Division 1. Nick McLaughlin, his teammate in the organization from Division 3 alongside. It's Picado Esports and P1 Esport, followed by Make Performance Jr. and JTR Esports. We've seen good runs from JDR this year. Rusty Spatula, second in Division 3 points, starts 37th. Geeks Energy Sim Racing second car today, driven by Samuel Bekema in 38th. Thomas Evanzini starts alongside Josh Wiggins, top 40, while the Sim Racing team back in 41st with Garrett Thompson, 42nd. The last 2 drivers on the grid today, YS Racing Esports driver William Hager, on with Olympus Esports having Christopher Stephenson starting behind the wheel of the 321, the Lambda car, to round out the entries here today from Japan. So just a few minutes away before drivers get the move forward towards the actual starting grid portion of the session, be able to set themselves up for the starting procedures. Ewan, first of all, keys to victory if you want to win this race today with a course of an hour and 55 minutes and 1 stop.
I think one of the keys is already behind us. You've got to qualify well around Suzuka. You don't often see and hear stories, especially not in GT3 racing, of drivers cooking through the field over a short-ish race like this and ending up winning it, because it is just so difficult to work your way through. You do have that one pit stop to work a bit of strategy into it, but it is difficult to when there is only one over the course of a race like this. So it's going to be hard for people to work their way through from the back to the front, but those who are, in the first 3 rows or so definitely have a chance. Stay up there for the opening moments, then work your way through the pit stops nicely, and then try and find a way through. That's going to be the difficult part, really, staying with the leaders, staying with Sean Campbell, and then trying to find a way through. Both of those things are pretty difficult to do.
As you can see, the track temperatures are rising, keep in mind, up 2 degrees Celsius, up 4 degrees Fahrenheit so far. Air temp about the same, 23 degrees Celsius, 74 Fahrenheit. The wind gusts going to be a factor throughout parts of the day today, currently swirling around the backstretch as well as the front straightaway for headwinds, reaching up to 16 miles per hour currently, more than 20 kilometers per hour. So, on that note, who else are you keeping an eye on today for this type of a race today? Who do you feel this race favors the most?
Well, it's got to be those that are up towards the front, those pole sitters. We've already talked about Sean Campbell and Adam Vukovic, of course, in a very strong position. But I'm very interested to see what happens in Division 3 here today, because Prestanda Nomad took the pole from V Racers. It was a fairly late lap from the championship leaders, but they were able to get there. Rusty Spatulas weren't that far away, neither were P1 Esport or Echelon Sim Sport, or any of them really. From second down to 6th in the Division 3 Championship, it is very, very close. Only 38 points between those 5 cars. they are all quite a few adrift of Prestanda Nomads right now, but they're all up there, and they do need a good race here. It's always interesting, I find, in the Division 2 and Division 3 races to see how they work through those with these races, because they start all mixed together. We don't sort out the categories like you would see in other forms of racing, maybe. We don't sort out Division 1, then Division 2, then Division 3. It's just all an overall starting grid, as we just ran through there. So it's not particularly easy to see where the battles are going to come from in Division 2 and 3 sometimes. So Prestanda Nomad definitely with an advantage, but they're certainly not away with it just yet. We've got a lot of work to do between now and then to be able to win this race. It's going to be a very long race for some, because it is such a fatiguing circuit, if that's a word.
Waiting on the forwarding command to make our way forward from the warm-up portion of the session. An interesting storyline to mention. We mentioned some drivers looking to get the draft. Amongst those, saying thanks for draft Sean Campbell to Ethan Bass's Ford, where at least 3 drivers throughout the session negotiated trying to ask the Ford for additional draft help. The fun of iRacing sometimes. Everyone likes the Ford.
Oh yeah, and I do as well, as I'm sure people know if they listened to me before. Yeah, it's fantastic to have the Ford on grid, and I'm sure that a few will be very pleased that it's there as well, because that gives you a bit of a helping hand on the straights. So yeah, good to see. I know, so, as you said, something that can only happen in sim racing. You can't exactly text message other teams during or while you're out there on the circuit in real life.
Indeed. But I'm really curious on the new teams, how they perform, or the debuting teams, I think is the better way to phrase it. Geeks Energy, very quiet in the session, but Red Panda, top 6 overall. Carter Hutcherson has a big chance to be able to come away with the victory if he can position himself, you'd have to think. How would you consider that, based on what you've seen from Hutcherson over the past 2 years?
Well, it's good. He's up there with a chance. As I mentioned, the first 3 rows are really where it's going to be at for an overall victory. It is difficult, though, to look past Sean Campbell, even though he's. We've spoken about how difficult this race is going to be. He's got 3 wins in a row, and all of those wins coming in different fashion as well. So, Red Panda Racing going to find it difficult, but as you say, it's going to be fun to watch these new teams try and work their way through this series, and it always is a bit of a concern, really, as to whether they will quite be accustomed to the style of racing and all of the rules and regulations as well that do come with the GT Sprint Series. We noticed at Daytona, the 2 Team Fordzilla cars, if you remember, didn't do the minimum pit stop time. They didn't spend the minimum amount of time on pit lane at Daytona because they had not read the rules or something. Don't know quite why, but you just wonder whether a new team is going to be able to grasp the rule set and the style of racing quite so quickly because of all of this. You'd hope so, but we don't know until we see them out there.
I was curious, yes. The pandas are animals. Endangered animals, but they're real animals. In all seriousness, the drivers have now gotten themselves situated and gotten the command to be able to make their way to the starting grid for the starting procedure today. For this respective round today, drivers expect to double up and then be able to run less than 80 kilometers per hour until they reach the double up formation mark. That currently is for the exit of 130R today, and then race control will give the drivers the green flag through the voice command at the start line. So again, you have to be very critical and have to be very heads up on it, because we've seen drivers get penalized for jump starts in the past.
Yeah, you certainly will if you do indeed go too early. About esports there, 3rd place. We'll see what they can do. But how are German Sim Racing going to play this? Pole sitters in Division 2 with a big advantage over those behind. How are they going to influence this race, especially in Division 1? If they start to get involved in battles and whatever, we could allow a leader to get away, an overall leader. So we'll see how that goes. But they could be very much a nuisance for Sebelt Esports, who will want to get through on them very quickly and give chase to Sean Campbell.
Clock is now rolling, but they still have yet to be able to get the official green flag. So now, look to position themselves just right for this race. Delta V Division 2 entry on board with the 284. The heart of the pack here likely going to be extremely busy, to put it that way. You have to be careful, as you mentioned. How do you do that, but also make sure by being too careful, you end up in turn getting swallowed up by the pack or hit by the pack?
Well, it's a thankless, almost impossible task to achieve both of those things, really. So it's just a way of picking your way through, and I think a lot of that comes with experience, really. The experienced drivers very rarely ending up in incidents like that, even when they've started back in the pack. Sean Campbell being an example. There's many more throughout the field. Think of Ethan Bass, who's almost never involved in an early incident as well, as a very experienced driver. So some of it probably just comes with experience and just knowing when and where to place your car. And so a lot of that's going to be at play here. The helpful thing though at Suzuka is the fact that Turn 1 and 2 is actually quite flowing. It's not like Belle Isle where we had that, big braking zone and a big stack up, and eventually we had a big mess into Turn 3 really back in January. So that was a bit of a shame to see. It's not going to be like that here, I wouldn't imagine. The track's certainly not going to get blocked in the same way. And it's a bit more of a flowing Turn 1 and 2 really, which really helps, as opposed to a direct big braking zone and 90-degree corner as we had 1 month ago.
Still about half a track to go before we get things rolling here, and still playing things out the right way. Intriguingly enough, not sure how the 321 just managed this. They've picked up an instant black flag, not a series black flag, during the pace lap. Gonna have to figure out the situation there. It is being currently cleared, from my understanding, from dead last. But outside of that, final thoughts before we reach the double up line.
Well, it should be a good race, a very important race as well. I feel that if Sean Campbell goes on to win this one, with Team Fordzilla not here and Team Heusinkveld back in the pack, German Sim Racing a long way back in points today, or coming into today, it could be a very, very important day for the Division 1 Championship. But we could see some twists and turns in Division 2 and 3. Very much looking forward to it though, as we get up towards the the 130R, the 2x2 line, and now the teams are going to stack up into that familiar formation and get ready for what should be an exciting race here at Suzuka.
Clarify the in-sim reason rather, for the 321 situation. They jumped the start before the official start. Yes, they jumped on the standing start before the rolling start. We come to the rolling start for the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld for round 5 from Suzuka Circuit here on iRacing. Up to the start line they go, to the bridge. Campbell on the left side of the track, right side, Wolkowicz, green flag is out, we're underway from Japan. And a better start to the right side, German Sim Racing Red with the advantage. 2x2 near 3 wide behind him as they start off the race. Great start for German Sim Racing, able to hold on, heading to the S's. The German Sim Racing blue car getting doored by one of the Ran cars, crashes in the back of the field, at least 5-6 cars in the grass. Two still going.
Delta V Racing was one of them, and Prestanda Nomad another as well. That's important for the championship in Division 3. The pole sitters in Division 3. Ryan Scott Hamilton off the road, down at the exit of turn number 2. It's a disaster for them, but not a great start either for the guys on the outside line. Delta Sport and Sabel Esports both in the same line there, but didn't really get going in that race, on that start I should say, allowing Adam Vukovic to take the lead as a Division 2 driver. This is pretty unbelievable to see them in the overall lead.
That's unbelievable to say the very least as well, with a good start. Niels May already a third, lots of shuffling behind him. Ingersoll ran GT3 Sprint 2. Alejandro Castanera trying to find their way around the left side. Rizik trying to play defense. Sedkowski in the popcorn seat. They head off to Spoon for the first time.
Now the single file, the field sorting itself out, but on these opening laps there are chances for moves, and that was a bit of an attempt from Team Heusinkveld to make their way down the inside of Ingersoll. Round for 7th in the Division 1 category, and now it's side by side between the two of them. Heusinkveld looks like he's gotten a better run, possibly on the run in, but not quite able to get himself in between those two Mercedes in front.
Went around Rodriguez there on that pass, so the Ingersoll Rand cars now lined up 8th and 9th on the start, a -3 though for the 135. First lap in the books. Wolkowitz, the current overall leader. The Division 2 leader in turn up at the front of the pack. Already single file throughout the field. The penalties have been handed out that we talked about before the race. Hobson and Natal having to come down for to serve them. There is Hold Tights trying to hold off the back of the main pack 15.
Yeah, he's doing his best to hold on, as they all are right now. It is one long line as of right now, maybe to these three. Satellite Racing and Adam State just letting that go a little bit to the Ford up in front of Orbit Motorsport, and Ethan Bass in second place for Division 3 right now. There he is, just struggling to hang on himself actually, and then there are bigger gaps to follow after that. Jason Dilworth for Prestana Nomad, allowing that gap to open up a little bit in 16th overall.
So Ethan Bass trying to keep things going here. Interestingly enough, he did talk about how he was concerned about the speed in the opening sector. It's been the third sector where that Ford has been quicker. Already up 2 spots, but right now is the bridge between essentially Pack 1A and 1B.
Becoming detached really, and going to be the head of his own group, I think, very soon. Ethan Bass here. Got the Satellite Racing BMW just behind, and I think they are going to have a fight before too long. But just look at the advantage that German Sim Racing have got already, basically all down to the qualifying performance. 6 seconds is the gap already. There is the contact that we're seeing. So it's another Prestana Nomad car that was side by side with Delta V Racing, and then that affects the Division 3 one. You can see the Division 2 light blue car on the outside, and then it gets connected with the Division 3 one on the inside. An ironic bit of bad luck really for Prestana Nomad. Really disappointing for them as well. They dropped down to almost last.
Only drivers behind them are those who also serve penalties, as here comes Eclipse. Costa trying to go for the cross on Jake Shirley, not able to make it work on the 217 for the time being. Virco Esports, one of the Division 3 cars though, looking to get in position. It looks like the Division 2 car going hard defensive here, Shirley.
Well, looks like it. Inside line will prevail in towards turn number 1, as it so often does. This could be a scary replay. Quasar Sim Racing, the first victims of the curb at 130R, and that's a heavy slam into the wall, and comes back onto the road in front of Delta V Racing, who just cannot get any luck in this race today. I'm pretty sure that is them again, along with Olympus maybe, who were involved. There is the Division 2 BMW. What a disaster for them, and a big shame for all three involved.
Meanwhile, Team Heusinkveld. Bye-bye goes the Division 2 car with the kiss in the back bumper gone for the Precision Racing car.
And that was the Division 2 Team Heusinkveld car. The other one still up there in 10th overall. But yeah, back in the mid-pack down towards the back, it's a lot messier than it was at the front, where it has been a clean start.
Yeah, give credit though to Inger. Oh, trouble up the road! Off the track goes one of the Audis. From the top 3 and off and away goes Niels May's advantage in the podium spots to start.
Oh, it's that curb. It's that curb at Spoon Curve. Just a lot of tarmac runoff out on the outside there, ready to collect you. But these curbs are deadly around here at Suzuka. The one at 130R, the one at Spoon Curve as well, will spin you around very, very quickly indeed.
Yeah, you don't want to be spinning around like the song and like that chorus, let's put it that way, today. Still, keeping an eye on the train. About Esports already nearly 3 seconds behind the top 2. Campbell and Wolkowitz have run away. Reed Muller's already fuel saving hard. Hutcherson has maintained the top 5 with Dennis Perisik right behind him.
One line from third place overall, second in the Division 1s, all the way down to German Sim Racing at the back, Massimo Locatello. We were riding on board with him in the qualifying session. So this is the kind of settling down of the race now. We're over 5 minutes in, still a long way to go. But this is the kind of settling down of the race here at this point. It's going to be difficult now to overtake the car at the front of any of these trains. But you know, it's not going to get any quicker here either. So the gap to the front two is just going to continue to increase unless somebody can disrupt the kind of stagnant and static situation they have at the front there.
Still the 284 for Delta V is in the midst for 7th in division. A little shuffling. Jason Dilworth getting shuffled back by RSR by Butt Kicker. The overall positions, blinky blanky. Not just the lights, but the car for a moment. And the tempers are flaring a bit between Division 1 and 2 cars.
I think Jason Dilworth just doesn't want to see that blinking up in front of him right now, flashing the lights to try and let them know maybe. But certainly that shows that he is a bit nervous inside that car right now, and with the situation that they have in that championship, it is understandable. Looking to see where the
a crash in the 30s. One of the main performance cars, one of the top-running Division 3 cars, has just binned it. We still look at the battle up the road as Dilworth tries to get a spot back in a dive. One car off the road in front of the 2. That's the Division 1 main performance car off now in the Casio Triangle. Everybody having attritional at once.
It's been a difficult start to the race for some. We've already seen 5 pit stops so far, and all of them for over a minute in this race. There is the spin for Team Heusinkveld. Oh, and they're slamming to the side, and more contact with P1 Esport as well. A real mess back here.
So one make performance car gets collected in that. This is the view of that one. Right at the tail end, looks like it's okay. Having to go around some of the bodywork, and then the Division 1 entry for Lazzini hits the grass and spins it around 2.
It's a difficult braking zone there into the Casio Triangle because it isn't exactly straight. Just curve around to the right, and so you can't quite get the braking zone that you might want. Here is further behind. Oh, that battle with just behind Prestana Nomad, and 2 spins, one of them for Delta V Racing again. And the other car, I think Valorous Motorsport, the other one involved quite possibly. It was indeed. So a real shame there, but Jason Dilworth going to be very pleased. A lot less pressure on him now.
So still keeping an eye on how things have now, well, picked up per se for the Division 3 lead. Picked up a fair bit, in fact. Costa, remember, we talked about how Division 3's leaders had a decent cushion before. Rocco Esports has already closed it up within about half a second now. And they have some more trouble, more traffic behind them building up with Division 2's IVRA liveries looking to go too.
Well, having a good cushion off the start is all well and good, but if make contact and spin around on the exit of turn 2 as the pole sitters did, then all of that's going to be wiped away. So it's less than a second now for the lead, but Christoph Reyes is under a lot of pressure right now, and not for a position in his class either. It's a Division 2 car trying to work its way through 4 iron liveries, and then the recovering Mag Performance Division 1 car as well. This could get really awkward.
This is extremely awkward, if that. It's the tough, difficult balance of, do you let them go or do you fight it? And it looks like they've chosen the fight, and the Division 1 car, Make Performance SRT, then getting on by, now having to fight with the Division 3 entry.
So many awkward moments, really, with people out of position now on different pace and in different categories, trying to fight with each other and just almost cope with each other in the same track space. Mag Performance, of course, quickest of the 3. They're in Division 1 and qualified inside the top 10, so you'd expect them to work their way through. But after all, Verico Esports don't want to give up any room here in Division 3, and they don't want to fall back any further, as that's the Mag Performance Division 2 car, having a huge side at 130R and still managing to keep things going without any contact. They may have been hit there.
Yeah, and you see already one car having to go really wide and slow down.
They were hit. I think they were trying to redress the position.
Black flag just awarded over the Sim 289 car. That's the TR Geeks Energy Sim Racing car. on debut today, picking up a 22nd stop and hold in their first race of the year in this series. That's after what is reported to be from a checkup in the chicane and making contact with the 225 car, that being, in that case, Quasar Sim Racing Hydro.
Real shame for them. But lots of incidents to be looking through in the opening moments. That's so far the only one during the race to have been resulted in a penalty. There's another couple that could well do. That could well result in penalties, but we'll have to wait and see whether they do or not. Still very lively though. I'm actually a little bit surprised actually in how lively the opening 20 minutes or so of this race has been. I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult to move around than it has been. But I think due to the amount of incidents that we saw earlier on, we've got a lot of people out of position, and that's allowing for a lot of overtakes so far.
Speaking of overtaking attempts, there's one right there. Make the move on Santa Nomad. There's BMW dropping back one more spot in the midst of these corners here. And that's going to be the top thing to throttle this is you think of Suzuka more of a strategy track a little bit. Yes, you can make passes here and there, but it's more strategy. But so far, when you end up having so many mistakes like we've seen, it's hard to stick to the script when the script is lit on fire by several dozen spins.
It is certainly difficult. You've just got to try and keep your head down and recover from these things and just do your own race, really. See where you end up. Yeah, I think we'll have a lot clearer of a picture of quite where everyone is after the pit stop phase, which is coming up in really quite a long time. It'll be around the halfway mark of this race where people do make their stops. But after that, we'll have a real clear indication of where people are and where you can get to by the end. But certainly, we've got a lot of cars out of position right now.
You'll keep an eye on some of these trains building up. The pack's slowly splintering apart. Ingersoll Rand's two entries working together. Behind them still is Jensen Kowski. Massimo Locatello's gone back and forth a little bit for that second last spot on this train, keep in mind, but has had some off tracks that have seen him stay back in the 10th position where he started the race.
Yeah, it is difficult in this group, particularly. I spoke earlier, further down the field, that we've seen a lot more overtakes than expected. This is what I was more expecting throughout the entirety of the field. An entirely Division 1 train up here from third place overall down to 9th. 8 cars involved, and they're all finding it very, very difficult to overtake because they're all of a similar pace, even if they're not the same.
Oh.
And so, oh dear, that's awkward.
That's Christopher Stephenson getting hit by a car, one of the Mercedes AMGs. One Mercedes loses the bumper, and the Olympus car has found a tow spot to fix the car after the contact. Yeah. Frustration for the contact caused the mistake.
Yeah, certainly. Well, possibly. So, it's just difficult, especially through the S's, and a bizarre bit of contact as well there. We joined the replay, obviously slow motion and whatever. It's kind of difficult to tell if there was a bit of previous to that, or quite what was going on there. But it looked like a strange incident, and maybe, just getting annoyed with the contact, and then, as a result, going off the road. But difficult to tell.
I mean, race go the past week. Driver ran out of gas, realized they're out of gas, panicked, crashed into the wall. Just a few days ago at Imola. It can happen anywhere and anyone.
Yeah, certainly. You just got to try and avoid that as best as possible. As I said earlier, keep your head down at this stage in the race and just get to where you can. I think it would be really helpful for Jan Sikowski to get through here on the two Ingersoll Rand Mercedes, because they just look like they're losing the front four there, being headed by Sabel Esports, Maniti, Red Panda and German Sim Racing all involved, but the two Mercedes don't look like they quite have enough, as Sean Campbell goes for the overall lead and gets it.
New overall race leader indeed. You mentioned up the road, Sean Campbell getting the run on Walkowitz. And the interesting thing is, I wonder if there was a slowdown involved, because there was a checkup down the front straightaway by the 246.
Oh, it's possible. The Cassia Triangle the only, well, not the only place on the circuit, I'll tell a lie, but one of the few places where you'd realistically pick up an off-track, sorry, not off-track, definitely not, a slowdown penalty, I should say. So it is quite possible, but it's also possible that the pace of Sean Campbell now over the course of a stint that's going, 20 minutes long now, is starting to win out, although I think you're right, it's a slowdown penalty.
Yep, there's the lift, there's the pass, there's the new overall race leader. Still scores the same amount of points regardless, but I think it's extremely impressive you win an overall race from Division 2 or 3.
It's absolutely impressive as German Sim Racing going to look to inject some of that enthusiasm into their Division 1 car as well, as Ingersoll Rand, Jorge Sanchez Rodriguez overtaken by 2 drivers in a matter of corners there by the looks of things, because Senkowski's through as well, not able to come back at him, so down the positions go Ingersoll Rand, and Heusinkveld and German Sim Racing move up.
Adam State also closing in on this as well, and keep in mind, the 135 was able to hold on to the pack for a little bit. It's Rodriguez who's seen the biggest fallback at around the same time, so wonder if something's happening with the bit of the tire maybe. After all, they've been on the tires for 25-30 minutes.
That's going to start to wear on now, and of course they will get new tyres at the halfway stage during the pit stop window. You will have time to change tyres within the minimum pit stop time, so everyone will. And going to be especially helpful here at Suzuka, which really does shred your tyres to pieces. Remember during the Suzuka 10 hours in the BCO Grand Slam last year, the race was made very, very interesting by just lots of games going on between teams as to whether they take tyres, how many they take, because they are such an important factor around here. It really shaped that entire race, and that race was 5 times as long as this one.
More penalties being handed out by race control. Amongst those awarded penalties now, Garrett Thompson, the 225 car. That is the Quasar Sim Racing Hydro car that is already still getting repairs after the incident 130R. Then you have Frederick Pochez, who had a spin with the car in front of the 284, drive-through penalty awarded to their entry as well. They've already, believe, served it.
Yes, that was the incident, if you remember, with Valorous Motorsports down in towards turn 2. They both ended up spinning.
Speaking of spins, Costa just had a problem and he's in the wall! Nuno Costa way off the track, the Division 3 leaders, and up to the track of the rejoin.
Here it is. It's up the Dunlop curve. Oh, he just gets on the... Well, that's a slightly bizarre one, and I think that's Mac Performance who were just tagged around for the second time today as well. It looks like it was. That was a weird spin from Nuno Costa. There's the spin for the Porsche. Do they keep out the wall? Not quite. For the most part, they did. But Nuno Costa in the wall in a big way there, and that's the end of their charge for a race win here, surely. As they're getting dived now into the hairpin as well.
Mandatory repairs for Costa. Costa trying to get into the pit lane as Thomas Avanzini passes on by. Yeah, that car massively wounded as a result of that contact to the barriers. And now Division 3 is being controlled by the 324. Picardo Esports now in the Division 3 lead. Remember, 7 spots plus back before the end of qualifying. Closing up the gap. We're within about half a second prior to the incident. Now they lead the division.
Absolutely. Fantastic to see for them. And a big moment there as well in the course of the overall race there in Division 3. Everybody behind will move up a place as well, because you can be sure that Nuno Costa has fairly significant repairs after that one. But this race is not over by any means. Ted Lowendick separates the two leading Division 3 cars right now, but once he gets through on Verico Esports, the top 4 will be almost together.
Work the way forward already, down to about 90 minutes to go on the clock. Just tuning in here on RaceSpot. Glad to have you with us today for the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld. Studio in Delta Sport in German Sim Racing's Division 2 entry. Dominant drivers throughout the day and dominant teams 1-2 all throughout the start of this event. Leading by more than 5 seconds overall. Division 3 being controlled by this car, Carl Esports. Right now, they have a decent buffer of about less than 2 seconds over the hard-charging Spencer Ritzma. Echelon Sim Sport is closing in as well to make this even more intriguing for the division.
Yeah, it's a very, very good race we have going on right now in, well, especially Division 3. By far the closest category. I think one of the most interesting championships. Certainly with the way that Division 2 is going right now, with the German sim racing leading by such a long way in this race. Division 3 is shaping up to be very interesting as JTR Esports are going to challenge Viraco shortly. Surely, I should say. But it's certainly not over yet in this category. If any of the 3 leads are in doubt, I think it is this one.
Now keep in mind, when it comes to JTR on the name, their cars, talked about this before the broadcast, did see a shuffle to Echelon after their success previously. So that's why there may be that split you notice with the same color scheme. The Echelon and JTR cars you'll see on the tickers today. Right now, Ritzma just outside drafting range, just behind them too is the World of Sim Racing team. Here comes Vector Sim Racing's Ted Lowendick. Not close enough on the sound on Christoph Race.
I think Race might want Lowendick to just go through on him here. I do wonder whether having that Porsche in the rearview mirror is just distracting him right now from the pace that he could achieve. But on the other hand, with JTR Esports closing in, you might want Lowendick there, just like a bit of a rear gunner almost, to allow them to try and keep the lead as best as possible. In fact, that's Valorous Motorsports getting out the way. They've had long repairs today.
That's a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Luis Gaspar pulling off to the side there, but not a major factor. But yeah, it's been impressive though how things have been for this car we've been watching along Division 3.
The Viraco Esports only in their 2nd race of the season, and in that first one they were they did all right, but not even inside the top 5 in Division 3. I understand it was a difficult race and a pretty chaotic race for everybody, but certainly wouldn't have expected this at the start of the day. I certainly wasn't. It's, as I said earlier, though, far from over here. We've got the top 4 pretty close together, and even the likes of Prestana Nomad, Precision Racing Esports, they aren't that far away, 5th and 6th. Mac Performance Junior White aren't that far back either. They're in 7th place, but only 15 seconds off the lead.
Here comes Lowendick making the move. Already cut. Ray's just letting him go. So Ted Lowendick moved up an overall spot, 19th overall. The next driver for position, though, in this class, 4 seconds out the track. That move in turn helps Ritzma. Ritzma's now in good drafting distance, as well as Adrian Zabila, who's right behind him as well.
Well, Race is going to hope that he can use the slipstream from Ted Lowendick there to just help that out a little bit, but Spencer Ritzma being so close is going to be a problem. And there's going to be more nervous looking in the mirrors from Viraco Esports. A little bit early on the brakes in towards turn 1 there as well. The Mercedes just able to send it in a little bit harder, drive it in further around the corner. And now we'll begin to close in even more quickly. This is getting interesting now between these two. Could well see a battle for the lead in Division 3 developing very soon. The other 2 classes have got very big leads between the 1st and 2nd teams. But this one, with the unfortunate crash of Nuno Costa, really opened this category up.
Losing ground, though. Looks like Ray's really running away with Lowendick now with the draft. They've lost now that 1 second buffer. See the gap growing and growing as they head off to the hairpin. Up the road we go. So randomly mentioned the 135. Keep in touch with the main grouping, losing some of the touching, though. Here comes Locatello. Having to deal with lap traffic, though. That is Frederick Beckdorf, P1 Esport, who had troubles earlier.
We'll pull laps down now, but hopefully getting out of the way of everybody. Locatello now looking to make the move. He didn't go for it quite there. He's trying to catch up to his German sim racing teammate, who's just hitched onto the back of that group just up in front. Locatello with a good run out of the Casio triangle. They're going to get level across the start finish line, and the BMW looks like it's got more than enough in terms of straight line speed to get through. Ingersoll ran to look like they might have been lifting off really to let that one happen.
Locatello now up to 7th overall, +3 from his qualifying position. Most drivers who are inside the top 15, the most they've gained 3 spots. That's where the emphasis on qualifying comes into play. 16th on back though, multiple drivers are up 15, 20 spots nearly, as a result of some of the attrition. In other words, start up front and stay up front. Good spot. Stay up front, you qualify up front and then spin it out. It's not a good spot.
No, it's certainly not. We've seen 13 teams make a pit stop so far in this race, and considering the pit window isn't open yet, to have more than a quarter of the field already making a stop, and now the 14th comes in, Absolute Motorsport Aslev with Simone Di Natale, but 14 out of the 44 teams to start this race have already had to make a pit stop in this one. Just shows the amount of attrition, but as I said earlier on in the race, it's such a hard circuit, even on your own. Really difficult circuit, so it's not a huge surprise to me at all.
Red Panda Racing continue to do Red Panda things, keeping inside Pack B. Heusinkveld Esports still leading the way, Maniti, Red Panda, and then there's the German sim racing Lucar, 166. And Hutcherson impressing on the debut. He's looked like he's wanted to make a move here and there, but has led it for the most part right in the choo-choo train with a save on the fuel in the Ferrari.
Been a bit of a train so far, but given the minimum pit stop times, it's not really a factor having to, or it's not really beneficial really to save fuel that much, because stay stationary anyway. So we'll see what they're doing. It could just be a case of not being able to overtake. We're not really sure.
But even then, you could argue lighter car, less fuel, might be able to go faster. Some may argue, correct?
Well, yeah, I guess we can see how it goes. I'm not entirely sure. I personally think it's just a case of being stuck, really, for these teams. Although Max Riedmuller does seem to have just gotten things slightly wrong through Sector 1. Not his best S's section there. All of a sudden, Hudson is a lot closer, but just not really with the avenue to overtake here. The hairpin's sort of a half chance, but you need to be a lot closer at this section to really make a dive through there, so he's going to need to stay close and hope for it somewhere else.
Keep an eye on that battle for Division 3. Guess who's in the lead? Now JTR Esports in their entry. Able to make the pass with the 345. That just coming moments ago after closing back up the gap and nearly making contact into turn 1.
Good move, and good to see up the order now for Spencer Ritzmer, and a big dive from World of Sim Racing into the hairpin. You need to be close to make it happen, and just about close enough was the BMW, but not with the exit. A really tight line on the exit there has not given them the speed at all. It's allowed JTR to get away, but it's not allowed the change for second to happen.
Remember, World of Sim Racing team had a bit of contact for the Division 3 lead last time out. Here's a look at that near contact just referred to. Look at this part right there. They nearly touch. In fact, they do.
Definitely contact there. Thankfully, it wasn't too heavy. There's an attempt. Finally, Hutcherson's made an attempt, and he's gone for the dive. Wow, that was close at turn 2. Riedmuller there. Defensive and stern in his defence he was, but Hutcherson tried the outside into turn 1. You don't often see a duck up the inside for turn 2 either, but that was close. Very close to disaster for the two of them as well, but nearly a move at the same time. They stay in the same positions again.
Mentioned the antsiness a little bit, wanting to make the move. Now Hutcherson trying it again. Tight section to try and do it though through the Dagner curves. Hutcherson stays on behind, off to the hairpin. Next chance to be able to try and get alongside here in the brakes.
Yeah, he's very close. There could be a chance here, and we know he doesn't mind a brave one. A late look. He's going for the outside. Riedmuller saw it coming. He's got to be careful doing that. Swinging wide and going for a late apex and a better run, because Dennis Brzic is not too far behind for German sim racing here. Got to be careful of that. The slipstream of the Maniti car up towards Spoon.
Seatbelt's running away as well, already nearly fully a second up. Way wide goes the Maniti car for a moment. Hutcherson has to check up for it.
That might well be an off-track there. But certainly Suzuka Esports able to get away here because of the battling. It always happens when a battle starts to develop, but the driver's not involved in it get away. That's exactly what's happening for Suzuka in second right now.
So now Hutcherson having to regroup because of that bit of a checkup, losing momentum for the backstretch. And later on the break, still a few minutes away from the pit window, mind you, to start off today's event. Right down with the snake, just how big they feel this draft is if you can break this toe today. No close move yet for Hutcherson.
Last lap was the closest he's got, certainly that we've seen. Not able to get through last lap, and he's even further away this time, but he's certainly applying the pressure. Starting to get a little bit impatient in this group. We mentioned that he was kind of locked up in this position right in the middle of that train. Couldn't really go anywhere, but now he's just turned the aggression levels up. He's starting to turn on the heat and start to make a few attempts, but it is making Riedmuller look in his mirrors a bit more. It's bringing the pace out of the group and allowing Seatbelt to get away.
It's allowed Locatello to also join in on the fun. Remember, 2 seconds back, the last time we seen Locatello's car. So now a 4-car train. Seatbelt has now made a breakaway from it as a result of all the battling and squabbling.
Red Panda are very strong out of Degner too. Not bad on the brakes to the hairpin either, so you can just get a little bit closer there, Hutcherson, then Riedmuller could have a real problem, but it is fairly easy to preserve the inside line at the hairpin, unless you're already challenging in towards the right hand and preceding it, but that might be the avenue they want to go down in terms of trying to make an overtake.
See that difference in the roll speed. Still need to close up that 1 car length or so to be able to realistically be there to make the cut. And how do you do that? It's going to be the major question mark at this point. He's been having to wait for the moments, and the problem is when he's getting to that moment, he's had the check up and he's lost that moment. It takes an air lap to regroup it.
Well, he's got an even bigger problem as well. The fact that Denis Brzic is a lot closer behind him is a problem, but that was a good run out the Casio triangle there. A great run from the Ferrari. Just a better exit, straighter exit, more direct, and he's able to pull alongside already as they go over the start-finish line.
Hutcherson on the left side, a bit of a squeeze from Maniti. Riedmuller nearly squeezed him to the grass for a split second. The cross again. This time he tries to poke it even harder, not even make it work again.
He does like that move, going wide at turn 1, up the inside at turn 2, but it's very difficult to pull off. I think he realises that that might be a better choice than going around the outside at turn 1 and 2, although I don't necessarily agree with him. Maybe he's worried about getting overtaken from Brzic if he does attempt that, but he's certainly applying the pressure a little bit more now. The traction and the exits off of corners that this Ferrari is getting, far superior to the Mercedes in front.
See, just that difference on letting it roll to the corners. Maniti trying to power its way through. Hutcherson powering more so on the exits. Again, close up for the airpin. Hutcherson having to back up the corner this time. No lunge. There's the lunge instead from Brzic. Brzic up the left side. Hutcherson holds it off.
This is the worry that Red Panda Racing are going to have from now, because you can't continue to use those alternative lines, keep opening the door to the German sim racing BMW behind you when they are that close. In the last couple of laps, they've been far enough removed for it not to really be a problem. But now Brzic is very much here, Massimo Locatello very much here as well. And so he's got to be careful with those alternative lines as he tries to search for a better exit and a run on Max Riedmuller, which he might well have got again towards 130R.
Hutcherson still waiting, now having to back it up this time, not close enough. Multiple penalties just awarded. Martin Mayer, 5-second rule violation, 5-second rule violation. Stephenson, 5-second rule violation for a second penalty for the 289 car. So those drivers now being awarded from the penalty box today. Here comes Hutcherson, looking to reward himself with a 4th-place spot. Hard defensive line by Maniti. Hutcherson back to the left side. The squeeze back by Maniti. Does Hutcherson try the cross again? He goes even deeper on the lunge, nearly hits him, he does!
Oh!
They spin it! They spin right in front of the pack! The German sim racing car stops at the bottom of the racetrack. In the heart of it, one gets by, Hutcherson goes to the grass.
That was always going to happen. That's why you don't see moves very often with a late dive at turn 2, because contact often happens afterwards. I think Hutcherson might well end up with a penalty after all of the stewards have had a look at it as well, because that was certainly on him. Just got into the rear of Reid Muller, and when the cars are so loaded up as they are at turn 2, then it's always going to result in a spin. So they've both dropped way down.
From the top 5 to this. Bit of drama right before the pit stop window.
There it is. Yeah, spin and a bit of contact as well. I think that was Bridget who got into one of them. Made a bit of contact because Locatello was able to get through there. So German Sim Racing now 3rd and 4th as a result. And Ingersoll Rand and Heusinkveld not that far away either. So that previous 4-car battle replaced with another one.
Yeah, they really gained up some time from that hard checkup situation. Locatello, no damage. Brizik just barely avoiding major scrapes in the car. Now, Castanera trying to work with Zinkowski to be able to close up the gap. Remember, though, that 135 dropped off by 2 seconds from the German sim racing cars the last time they were in this situation.
I do think that German Sim Racing will have the pace over the other two, go around especially, who have shown themselves to be, good value for a lower end top 10 finish, but maybe not anything more than that. Heusinkveld has just struggled to get through really with the Porsches, struggling to get anywhere near really Jan Zinkowski, so going to have to do something in the pit lane really, I would say. But yeah, it's a good position for German Sim Racing to be in, as long as Dennis Bridges didn't actually get much damage, if any, with that slight bit of contact he made.
Warning given with Gaspar from the penalty box. But in regards to how things have flowed so far, we're already quickly approaching about the halfway point of this race. About 36 estimated laps to go this upcoming time by. Your thoughts so far? As well, the intensity level has stayed pretty high today. I can argue a little bit higher compared to Detroit because, well, this is a wider track than Detroit.
Well, it certainly is. A very different challenge to what we saw all those weeks ago as well. It has been a good race so far. I've enjoyed it. I do find it fascinating when we stay with these battles for a long time and we watch someone try and work another team out and work their way through, as we've got Mag Performance again off here. This is their Division 2 Porsche off through the S's. But yeah, I do find it fascinating when we stay with one of those battles for a long time and watch someone try and work their way through, as we just did. Unfortunately, that one ending up in a incident, as did this, unfortunately. Big contact with the wall as well.
Surprised the fans didn't look towards that way. Virtual fans and stands. But they've had a couple hits today. Front bumper and back. What?
They've got a cardboard neck, so they can't
a what?
They can't do it.
I'm so confused on what you were trying to say,
dear.
as there's a slope to stand a Nomad car all of a sudden. Well, that was a little bit of a check up there. Remember, that's Dilworth's Division 2 car that they just had to work their way around after Dilworth had a slide and spoon.
So the two championship leading Prestanda Nomads are not that far away from each other any longer. And the difficult race for them is continuing here. Jason Dilworth on the outside line of Viraco Esports. Now it's not a division battle. It's Division 2 versus 3. And Dilworth really struggling. There's contact. And their Division 3 car goes around. That Porsche is going to be stuck there as well.
After all the recovering, Ryan Scott Hamilton goes around again right at the pit entry. Rusty Spatulas is stuck right between the two Armco barriers. All while Hutcherson serving the penalty from the previous big hit. Here's a look as something happened with Rusty Spatulas to get out of the gas there.
I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they got out and just stopped accelerating there. That was very weird. But surely they're still going to be stuck there, Rusty Spatulas now.
They got free,
Okay.
but they had to get through the pit lane as a result of them stuck in the pit lane. And as to be expected with things intensifying, Sedkowski's turned up his intensifyingness to be able to try and keep up with the German sim racing cars since Locatello has, as we talked about, ran away by 2 seconds again.
Yeah, it certainly has. And I did expect that, actually. I thought that the GSR cars would get away, and that is happening. Heusinkveld might be able to stick with them if they could just get through an Ingersoll round, but the Mercedes just doesn't seem to be too strong around here. Max Riedmuller was doing a good job with it earlier on, but there's only so much you can do, and you're seeing more Mercedes at the head of groups. At Niels May recovering from that spin at Spoon earlier on. He is clearly quicker than where he is right now on the road.
May again also on the recovery drive. Riedmuller again on the recovery drive. Rodriguez just wanting to get a top 10 for the car. Here's a look at what happened. This is with Dilworth. This is where things started to stack up a little bit. Looks okay. Gets on the gas, slides the tires a bit. A little bit of heat in those tires. That time he was on his own for the most part. See, the next time they reached him though, well, we've seen the result.
What a disaster of a race, really, for Prastan and Omad. I commented earlier on about their consistency and their dominance so far in the season. I guess the only fortunate thing for them is the fact that Rusty Spatulas are their nearest championship rivals and ended up down the pit lane stuck with that spin. P1 Esport are laps down right now as well. They're third in the standings. Unfortunately for them, though, Echelon Simsport are leading this race right now. But as things stand, they should be able to retain the Division 3 lead. But as of right now, the Division 2 championship lead would change. German Sim Racing dominating this race, unsurprisingly, would take that lead.
Oh, and more trouble!
Oh,
May around with Rodriguez. Rodriguez gets some assistance. And what did we just talk about hoping to keep it clean?
Yeah, mate. That's going to be a penalty for Niels May, surely. And there is a penalty, by the way, for Carter Hutchinson.
Yep.
Yeah, been given a drive-through penalty for that incident we saw earlier on. I'd imagine this would have a similar result. Clumsy, really, really clumsy.
So Rodriguez, with major issues, stuck on that side of the racetrack for a long time as a result.
Oh my
and
goodness.
There's a little help. That's I Liveries on the rejoin.
Yeah, that's going to be... The initial spin wasn't their fault, of course, Ingersoll round, but that rejoin is also going to get a penalty, I would imagine, because that was not good at all.
Yeah, that just gave I Liveries mandatory damage repair, by the way. As we keep an eye on May for now in front of Riedmuller. Here comes Riedmuller on a lunge for a moment, then having to stay on behind. Oh, by the way, the pit window was opening in about a minute and a half.
Some teams and the drivers are going to be very glad about that, really, to get to the safety of pit lane and maybe repair a bit of damage as well that they've picked up in the last bit of madness, really. It has stayed quite madness so far this race.
Also allows drivers to potentially glue Ethernet ports into the wall. I'm joking, please do not do that, because that's dangerous. In all seriousness, it's a chance also to regroup in some of these cases here because, well, some drivers, well, they haven't had a chance to breathe, it seems.
Not really. In some of the usual suspects, really, involved in a lot of battles throughout. It has now calmed down slightly, the battles, especially inside the top 10 with that latest spin. We're looking at the closest of them, with ET Racing and Niels May as well, but I think Max Riedmuller just giving himself a bit of space, really, to the Audi in front, and given the erratic behaviour of it at the moment. So, probably a safer and sensible thing to do there from the reigning champions, to just back off.
Who really has been charging through all this wildness today. Really more so stagnated while everything's gone on fire around them. Various whole times has stayed inside 11 to 12 most of this race, just has been very calm. Really just riding and flowing through the motions and keeping himself in the conversation for the top 12 overall. Impressive from Deutsche Payment.
Yeah, fourth place. As things, third place as things stand. The reason why I was confused there, for RSR by Bookkicker were in front of them in Division 2, but they are Division 1, of course. That battle for 11th place overall. Orbit Motorsport, the closest Division 2 car to them, that is Ethan Bass in the Ford, that you can just see in the background, that may well be challenging for that podium over the next 64 minutes or so. But a lot is about to change through the pit stop window. Then we can see where everyone is on the other side of it, and then sort of reset ourselves and see where everyone can get to by the end of the race, and quite what's going to happen through the second half of the race, because it has been a little bit difficult to quite work out what will happen by the end. But after these pit stops, it will become a lot clearer.
Drive through penalty. Car 121, Niels May. Reason. We've seen the reason with Ingersoll Rand. So they'll have to serve the penalty right before the pit stop for their sake. This in turn would make this a battle for the top 10 overall in the race. Speaking of battling, German Sim Racing Red, they've been running 1 and 2, or either first and second, all throughout the day. They nearly lost a full second to Campbell. Wilkowitz has picked the tempo back out, though, to be able to close this gap back up to within half a second to 6/10.
Quite a remarkable performance so far from Adam Wilkowitz. We know that he is a good driver, but I didn't expect him to be able to stick with Sean Campbell all day like this. Been racing for nearly 50 minutes now. Today, with the Delta Sport leader in the way that he has done, it's been quite remarkable from a German sim racing driver, and they look like they're on their way to a Division 2 championship lead as well.
Especially with the performance today. Performances in consistent matters really important in the championship. Wilkowitz very consistent today. Campbell, I've noticed, has been playing things very carefully with some of the traffic. That's where some of the track time has been lost the most today, just in case. Especially since there's the lap car ahead. TR Geeks Energy Sim Racing with Olaf Sorkeritz, who's had 2 penalties today.
Something you really need to avoid, to be honest. All the penalties. We've seen a lot of them as well so far in this race today. It's to find the race for some, but I feel that we're about to see another one come through in not so long. Well, because the 134 Ingersoll Rand car, I would say, may well get a penalty for their rejoin we saw at the hairpin not so long ago.
Still waiting on the results of that respective review. There is the traffic we're talking about. Campbell up by only 4/10 now, approaching said traffic. Wilkowitz, though, a little bit slower through 130R. It's been the intriguing point. Campbell's more confident on the pace in some of these apexes. By the way, those noticing some flick around the time pylon, that's because Avancini has found some more contact with one of the Standa cars. There's the lap traffic. There's Delta Sport right on around 4/10 still the gap.
I just wonder how hard they're going to fight over this, really, because it is an overall win, but after all, they are both leading their class, so it's a bizarre battle. And like many of these, I think they are going to wait at least until the exit of the pit stop phase before they really think about it. But it is a bizarre one. It's something we almost never see, really.
Well, it's important to consider here, too, when we mention how Campbell races in multiple different types of cars these days. He was in the conversation for a IVRA Xfinity Series Championship. He didn't take part this week. You know why? Practicing this car for Suzuka. And the discussion was, could he get to the 158s or 159s? He's been running the tempo he's been looking to set in his practice throughout the week.
Well, that's exactly what practice is for, and what he would have wanted from it as well. But Sean Campbell does so much racing. Is really, especially at some points during 2022. I wondered whether there was a day where he wasn't racing at all in the week. So yeah, it's he's a very experienced driver, does a lot of racing, and it certainly can't help. Sorry, can't hurt, I should say. Definitely helps. Yeah, you're seeing it right now. He's on his way to possibly a 4th in a row in Division 1 if he can hold on for the next hour.
You know the funny thing about that 158? I think McLaughlin challenged him to hit 158.5. He hit the 158.5 for the pole time today, by the way. So he hit the target time from the challenge. Still, under an hour to go on the clock, 30 estimated laps to go. Top 2 separated by 7/10. I'm more so intrigued, though, on how the rest of these podium spots are going to go with how the strategy is. In German sim racing's Locatelli and Brizik flying to close their way up the Seybelt if they can.
If they're making any inroads on the last lap, they certainly did. With 0.8 of a second thereabouts gained. Well, that was the lap before last. This is the most recent one. 0.3 of a second gained by both of the German sim racing cars. It does seem, though, that Locatelli is a little bit quicker than British. I'm not entirely sure whether that's because of the damage to the 166, if there even is any on that BMW, after a bit of contact was made. But they both are certainly catching Seybelt Esports, and we could see a battle for third overall in the second half of this race. I can't see it really happening before the pit stops.
And in turn, you have to consider, too, just for the entire team to be this quick, they've been for the past couple rounds now. They have really stepped up another gear or two in the battle for this championship to try and keep the pressure up on Delta Sport. Agree or disagree?
I don't know, to be honest. I wouldn't like to lay my neck on the line.
Well, what a sim racing team are in the pits. See them with a bit of a driver change at the time. That's why you seen that there. They both share the same helmet, though. Gotta love iRacing sometimes. Rodriguez, by the way, a 60-second stop and hold will join some of these drivers in the pit lane. Pit box being missed by WS Racing Esports in the backdrop for good measure.
That was because of, apparently there was a second unsafe rejoin after the one that we saw. So really unfortunate there. Well, not unfortunate, but a long penalty as a result of all of that. And so they're going to drop way down and possibly off the lead lap as well. Yeah, second half of this race is going to be very interesting, especially in Division 3. Interesting to note that World of Sim Racing do change drivers. Waiting for JTR Esports and Viraco Esports to both come in. It does look like Viraco may just not have enough in the remainder of this race to take it in Division 3.
Keeping an eye on that rejoin. World of Sim Racing right in front of this battle. That's Heusinkveld now leading this respective pack. You have Castanera still up here. Adam State from Division 2 is also in this group. And already hard checkups for some of the drivers out of the pit lane and some of the lap cars. Kelsey looking a little impatient.
Very busy. These are lap cars and cars on the same lap and all mixed into one here. Heusinkveld have finally managed to battle their way through traffic into 5th in Division 1 now, but they've found themselves in behind a couple of Division 3 cars. That's an outlap for the World of Sim Racing BMW. Heusinkveld going to try and find his way through as quickly as possible, weaving around in the mirrors. A dive down the inside here, and that's a decisive one. Adam State tries to make the move. Heusinkveld way too wide, and they're all going to change position here.
And Heusinkveld tries to peel Castanera off the side of the racetrack. What in the world? Heusinkveld loses a couple overall spots as a result. And one hard lunge sees a -2 in 2 corners.
Well, he didn't want to find himself in the same situation he has been with Ingersoll Rand for almost the entirety of this first stint of the race. He didn't want to get stuck behind a Division 3 car. You're going to bleed even more time doing that. So tried to make a decisive, quick move, and it's really backfired. -2, as you say, and he's going to have to battle hard in the second half of this race now to battle back through again.
See if the undercut is on play here. Still less than 10 minutes to go in the window. About Esports has gone in. Ingersoll Rand coming in. Zakowski electing to stay out on the track and go for the overcut in turn with Ingersoll Rand's decision. Go into the pit lane to start their service. As you said, tires being taken by Santosi. So far, so solid. Been consistently holding on to the third spot overall before this pit sequence.
They should be able to manage holding on to third overall afterwards, but just how much of a gap they'll have over the two GSR cars is what remains to be seen there. As you mentioned, tyres going to be taken, 4 tyres by everybody. They should be back out there again without too many problems after not too long of a time. After not too far over a minute, you would say. So we'll see how they go. But we'll see where they come out after the two BMWs in now third and fourth come into the pit lane.
Still keeping an eye on 8th and 9th overall. Deutsche Payment still staying within this choo-choo train. With RSR as the conductor, a bit of smoke ahead. That's because of Gregory Hobson having a little help from the Division 3 leaders. For the most part, things have stayed clean for these cars as well here. Take a look at the overall race lead. Campbell, up by 7/10, elects to come in. Sean Campbell comes in, overcut for German Sim Racing.
We'll see if the reasons for that become a little bit clearer in some time. But Sean Campbell into the pit lane. Don't do anything wrong here. Don't speed on the way in or the way out. And hit your marks on the way in as well. Sure you've checked your tyres. Sure you change them. Sure you have enough fuel to go to the end as well. And then get on your way again. No need to take any risks here for Sean Campbell.
Onto the field, joining him this time. Satellite, Heusinkveld, RSR by Butt Kicker, Deutsche Payment, Orbit, all in this time by. Campbell already done the tire sequence. Going to have to wait the full 1 minute on the clock to be able to roll out of the pit box before things can proceed. There is a pit party underway though. Off and away goes one of the Prestata Nomad cars with a 1:02 pit stop. So just at the end of the fuel tank here. Pretty clear.
Yeah, looks like it. This race, of course, 1 hour 55 these days. But racing really only began about this time 1 hour ago. So makes a lot of sense. Minute pit stop now taken. Sean Campbell just coming to the end of that now. Should be getting underway now. He does. Making sure he has done a minute. He did a 1:01, which is the what he needs to do really. I would do that as well in his situation. He's got such a big lead. There's no point in pushing it to the very 10th of a second, just in case you do it wrong and end up having to take a penalty.
Yeah, so far every driver around 1 minute 1 seconds to 1 minute 2 seconds on the pit stops, except for a couple. PR Geeks Energy had a 39-second stop moments ago, a 45-second stop for Make Performance Junior car, the 244. Everybody else so far looking solid on the pit sequence. Off and away goes most of the pack. Deutsche Payment jumping over RSR in the pit window. 2 seconds the difference in the box.
The bizarre one. Some people really giving a lot of leeway there, making absolutely sure as the overall race leader comes in. German Sim Racing had a 1-2-3 briefly there, by the way. I don't think it's going to end this race like that, but it would be an absolute dream for them if it did. Adam Vukovic's having a pretty dream race as it stands anyway. He's going to get out of that car now for Florian Hohn.
They're going to have a lot of pressure here as Brizik and Locatello also in. Reed Moore jumping into the pit lane this time by. So now it's the question, how does that red car cycle compare to Delta Sport, who is all the way in Spoon? Mostly everyone else in, only one car yet to peel in for any service. That's the 235 Geeks Energy car in its debut today. Here's a look at Campbell. Looking pretty solid to close in. 15 seconds left at least for the 246 in the box. Campbell already about 12 seconds away from the scene.
should be able to retake the race lead here. We'll wait and see, of course, because he did leave that 1.5 second buffer for the minute there. If they do cut it a little bit closer there in the German sim racing car, they're not going to. They're going to leave it even longer, so they will drop behind. There comes the BMW, but way behind Sean Campbell, and I don't think Florian Hearn is going to be able to close in or even stay with that Porsche up in front. So Sean Campbell now with a comfortable race lead.
2 seconds gained in the sequence. 2 seconds quicker was Campbell in the pit lane down the hillside. So now back to the cycle. Third overall, 9 seconds back at Campbell. Then you have Locatello, who pulled 3 seconds over Britsig after the sequence. So Rans Moreno has found space in the 6th position out of those as well. Waszczewski has also gained a lot of spots up to 7th. So everything has cycled for the time being, with now some of the biggest gaps we've seen today here at Suzuka.
Has opened up now, as expected from those pit stops. That's where you've got to wait for the pit stops to be completed, really, before you jump to any wild conclusions about these races in this series. So now we can really see where everybody is. See that Sean Campbell's got a very big lead. So have German sim racing, but in Division 3. It's changed quite a lot. JTR Esports are, well, nowhere to be seen. Unless I can't read. I can't see them anywhere.
They're first on the timing pile by 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I actually can't read, yeah.
Apologies for that on your behalf, but still, they're 18th overall. Give them credit. Urco Esports in Nick McLaughlin is already up to 3rd. Here's a look at Ritzma. Since taking the lead, Ritzma has been on a very solid tear pace-wise, I will say. Before the pit stop sequence, taking the lead, they're running the 201s, 202s. Compare that to Urco Esports, they dropped to the 202s, more so the 201s by far.
Just over 5 seconds right now, and got the same drivers as we had before as well, so it does seem as if we're going to see sort of a similar situation. Ritzma should have enough, but Christoph Reis was very strong in the first half of the last stint as well, so I do wonder whether he was just eating up the tyres a little bit too quickly there, and maybe that's why he fell away in the second half of the last stint. But if he's not too careful, it will happen again. But I'm not sure that happened at all. Not entirely sure, but 5 seconds is a nice cushion to be sitting on. Although it's not a race won kind of margin. It's just a nice position to be in for now.
And the JTR Sash Echelon car. And a really solid day. At the very least, today. Sizable advantage and growing little bit by bit. So now that we've reached the calm period and the clouds are kind of alluding to the possible storm front, now that you've gone through the first half, how do you play this for the second half? For example, you have a Ford that's being charged behind quickly by Max Riedmuller.
But yeah, you see what's around you, see what's in front of you, see what you can get from the remainder of this race, and for Max Riedmuller, it is quite a lot. There is a lot of potential in that Maniti Racing 101. There's potential for Niels May behind as well, and the GSE Racing Audi, which is 8 seconds down the road from this one. Those are a couple of cars to be watching out for. Riedmuller will surely be able to make a move on this Ford very soon. Ethan Bass doing all he can in that car, but he's going to struggle to get anywhere near Riedmuller here. He's going to pull side by side with that car on the inside line. Even tucks back into line before 130R.
Letting him on by. Again, that's not for overall position for points per se. But another solid day if you are driving a Ford. Ethan Bass is the only Ford today. Again. Still though, the next car back for him position-wise in the division is all the way back to Jake Shirley, who is 11 seconds back. I think Bass has to be impressing a fair amount of people with this Ford but to be able to keep holding on like this, as Maniti nearly drives themselves off the track.
I'm certainly very impressed by Ethan Bass and his performances so far in this Ford. Been very strong indeed, and as I said, great to see the Ford out there. I just don't know how much longer it is gonna last here in iRacing in terms of being competitive in GT3 racing. I feel like we said that for the last 3 or 4 years or so, that we feel like it's coming towards the end, but it really might be now. I'm not entirely sure, but good to see it still out there. Certainly not a favourable GT3. I know it's a balance of performance category, but it is certainly has a disadvantage over the rest. That's a shame to see, but expected as well. Yeah, the Ford possibly in its final few months of being a real competitive car in the top level of sim racing in leagues like this. And so just enjoying seeing it out there while it is.
I wonder if that's a sign of things to come, that message you just alluded to. I have to keep an eye on the updates. After all, next month is build week. Keep an eye on that with iRacing over the next few months, indeed. Still, it's in 12th overall. Up in front of them, there is a battle for Division 1 building up. Ovando and Reedmore are now looking to scrap. Reedmore, after his slide from the top 5 earlier with the contact, looking to try and make it back to the top 10.
Might well be able to in the next few moments. I think he's really going to be on a charge, and he's going to be one for us to watch over the last 3/4 of an hour here. In terms of making moves, there's a lot of small gaps right up the way to 6th place in this race. And if you can get up to 6th, then it would be the best Mercedes in the field as well, so that would be something to cling on to for them. So, excuse me.
Oh, we might have troubles here. We might get a caution. Aaron Smith is stopped at the side of the track on the surface coming out of Spoon Curve and is against the tire barrier, the 227. That's the car Ted Lowendick had entered in. It's at the side of the road. Also, just now, Spencer Ritzma dealing with technical issues. So we may see a caution with the 227 against the barrier. This is why they're against a wall now. No signal yet. You see the troubles, an obvious technical issue. And there's the caution.
Wow. Well, this race has just been changed in a big way. As you mentioned, technical problems here. We're about,
obviously couldn't tell what was going on with the wheel.
Yeah.
And then they stop there, stuck against the barrier, can't get it launched. See just how much they're dealing with problem-wise, and that's enough with where they're stopped and how dangerous of a spot that is. Put us under the safety car with 41 minutes to go. Absolutely huge.
Massive. Massive for this race. Sean Campbell's lead is going to be wiped away. Florian Hearn all of a sudden is going to be under a lot of pressure as well, because Ryan Wasilewski is not going to be that far behind him by the end of all of this. This is all of a sudden a huge moment, a huge restart coming up as well. A safety car is going to really spice up this race.
So this completely eviscerates Delta Sport and German Sim Racing Red's advantage over the field. What was up to double-digit seconds for Campbell lead-wise is gone. Now Campbell's going to have a dogfight here for this win.
He is.
How difficult will this be for Sean?
Well, he does have the advantage of that German sim racing car driven by Florian Hearn right behind. So Belt Esports have shown that they're maybe not quite up to scratch in terms of sticking with Campbell. The 2 German sim racing BMWs though might be able to, so they could get there, but there is a couple of cars between them and Sean Campbell, so that could make things a little bit tricky. I think Sean Campbell is still going to be alright, although this is going to make the race a lot more nervy for him.
Hold on, Marco Silva has crashed under caution. It is against the tire barrier, looking for a tow now, on top of things. So as everyone else is catching up to the safety car line, the 333 has now got mandatory repairs and has to tow.
What I've also noticed, by the way, is Prestana Nomad in the pit lane.
Well, they've been there for 5 minutes. They were there for 5 minutes, so that's from other damage issues, not related to the caution flag.
Yeah, it's not related to the caution, but it is related heavily to the championship, and that could change things in Division 3, and certainly in Division 2 as well. That championship leading car down 16th place in the Division 2 order, and it's just a disaster for the team that were leading 2 championships at the start of the day. A really bizarre one here for V-Racers.
They had a meatball flag, see them stop, and realize, okay, let's tow it. So they tow under the caution period, and that is a tow point, that exit to the wall. Drivers are instructed to find those to realistically tow the car on their command.
We don't, by the way, call cautions every time someone needs a tow.
Correct.
There are tow zones.
But if you have to tow when you're on, say, the racing surface like the Vector car was, then you get the caution flag, like there'd be in real life.
Exactly, that's the point. It's like it would be in real life, trying to keep it as realistic as possible. Here we see it in all 3 series. We previously haven't seen it often in the GT Sprint series, actually, but we've had it in previous seasons of the GSI Endurance series and HyperX Club Sport series. But this season, I think, is the second time we've had... No, third time. We had one at Daytona, we had one at Belle Isle, and we've got one here now as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, yesterday, at one point in the early first few hours, there were something like 3 cautions in the first 4 or 5 hours, if I kept track. Correct me if I'm wrong?
Yesterday, do you mean?
Yes.
I think so, around there. I lost count, to be honest. Not that there were so many, but I just lost count easily, because...
Well, either way, staying behind the safety car, lights are already out on it, so we will be pacing for the next 3 minutes. Basically about a 34-minute sprint race now. Who benefits the most out of this? We'll have to keep an eye on how the battles play out. There is a lapped car in the mix to this line too. WS Racing Esports is in a tough spot. They're 3rd in line, and the battle for 2nd in Division 1 on back is right on their tail.
Yeah, it's going to be, as you say, a 34-minute sprint race, or 33-minute, or whatever it's going to be. Lights out. So very nervy times for anyone here in this group. Is what we spoke about on the exit of the pit stop phase, really. The fact that the gaps are very large now. There's some big gaps to close in if you want to actually make up any time or any places. And now that's just been wiped away, really. All of the gaps wiped away. I know the field is still mixed. We do still have a mix of Division 1, 2 and 3 cars all over the place, and the 25 cars still on the lead lap right now. However, it's a very interesting situation that we have, and we're going to see a lot of things change over the next half an hour. What was looking like quite a calm run into the end for everybody is all of a sudden going to be turned up and turned on its head and turned into a race entirely different to what we thought we were going to get.
More penalties being handed out to drivers for pit stop violations. The 244 car we talked about with the quick pit stop time for them. Meg Performance Junior Black, and will have to serve a 19-second stop and hold. 26 seconds has been awarded to TR Geeks Energy Sim Racing. Then a 13-second stop and hold given to Echelon Sim Sport Pro-Am, that's Dustin Smith and Gregory Hobson's car. Then the 333, who just towed, had a 33-second stop and hold awarded. Also, a drop-through penalty awarded. Once again, a penalty for one of the TR Geeks Energy drivers, this time the 289. And a 10-second stop and hold for Johan Mayer has just been awarded as well. So, in our words, there are a grand total of 6 drivers with black flags to serve for the green flies.
Yeah, that is going to take quite a lot out of the train right now. It is a fairly long train as well, more than 30 still in the race right now. I'm going to count it at 34 still in the race as things stand. Quite a lot of retirements and some still getting repairs for very, very long amounts of time now in this race. So it's a long train, but some of them going to be removed from it, as you say. But up towards the front, going to be very, very high intensity indeed. The importance for Sean Campbell here, get a good restart. You can't afford to let your Division 1 rivals get onto the back of you and really start challenging you early on in this stint, because then it could become very difficult.
So to reset the field, it's Delta Sport with Sean Campbell first, German Sim Racing Red second, Sebel in third. Then it's German Sim Racing DE by ACV and German Sim Racing Blue 4 and 5. Satellite Racing, a race high 6th overall. Division 2, they are second in class. Ingersoll Rand, Team Heusinkveld, Deutsche Payment, RSR by Butt Kicker. The top 10 as we get ready for the green flag. Less than 34 minutes to go on the clock, about 18 estimated laps to go. Campbell with an early launch, green flag waits. Green flag getting ready to wave. We're underway again as Santosi goes for the pass already.
He's got to do that. He's got to make the move as quickly as possible, and he will do in towards turn 1. The Ingersoll Rand car, we'll have to go side by side. I thought it would stay out the way for a little bit longer than that. There's a lot of lap traffic involved here as well in this long line for the Division 1 cars to make their way through. So the top 4 are together in this one, top 3. The others behind are taking a little bit further to get through the traffic, which is going to be the key on this restart.
So Campbell with the decent distance over Florian Hohen as one car into the sand trap coming out of the snake. So far though, mostly everybody else has been able to regroup quickly for the most part. No troubles outside of that one in the sand. Santos able to break through the traffic, keep it within 1 second between him and this car in front.
Yeah, that's Florian Hohen in the first place Division 2 BMW. Into the hairpin. He needs to get through on that car as well soon, because I think Hohen is not quite going to be a match for Campbell here in this race. But let's see as they make their way up to Spoon Curve. Just over half an hour to go, so plenty of time on Sebel Esports' side, but you do need to stay very close to Campbell to challenge him.
In the final way forward, already 9/10 up as Campbell on the short run with the speed. So far, looking to break the toe. Campbell nearly into the grass, in fact. Down the backstretch, trying to break it so quickly. Sebel needing to line this up. Grass kicked up by the Division 2 leaders. Sebel electing to back up the corner, give space just in case.
To start challenging very soon. Although Hohen is having a good restart here, he is staying close-ish to Campbell, and that's going to make Santosi's life even more difficult, as Ethan Bass is trying to make a move for third in Division 2 right now as well, by the way, on the Dutch Payment car.
Confirmation is in from the technical issue. Reason for Aaron Smith on the crash. Wheel disconnection is the reason we've seen the crash that brought up the safety car. The gap is up to more than a second. Deutsche Payment is falling back and fast. Back to 13th. They've been passed in the division by the Ford of Orbit.
The podium now for the Ford. The podium position. They've got the GSE Audi just behind as well, looking to move through. And Spencer Ritzmer's not even that far away from these guys either right now. A great performance from the Division 3 leader. You can just see him. Yeah, well, you might have caught a flash of his Mercedes in the background of that shot there. He's not too far away. This safety car has closed this race up and turned it into something entirely different to what we thought we were going to have in the final half hour.
Yeah, this could get extremely wild if it hasn't already, to say the very least. Niels May also back there. Deutsche Payment, hard lunge that time, not able to fully close it up. May still waiting for the chance to be able to set things forward. Campbell, by the way, has broken away by 1.8 seconds out of the point. So Delta Sport has checked out with the restart, bigger than they had been before the caution.
Yeah, I think that's mainly down to the driver change there. If Adam Vukovic was still at the wheel of the second place overall car, then it might have been possible to stay with Sean Campbell a little bit more, but Alessio Santosi had no choice but to make a move, which he has now done. on that German sim racing car. And Ryan Wyszynski is not that far away from the 246. We could get a battle for the Division 2 lead, which seems unthinkable even 10 minutes ago.
A lot can happen, and if anything heats up with that, these two who are still scrapping in Division 2 on screen can also join the conversation. They are looking to see if they can close up to that train. There's Satellite Racing, lower right-hand corner. Train referring to, we've been keeping an eye on, that's third in the line for Division 3 with the Ford. Zipping on by through turn 1 now. That's about 3 seconds the distance between those two cars.
This race has changed dramatically. The gap's so much closer. And just up in front, you can see the battle indeed coming from Satellite Racing and then upwards. It's really close. Up in that battle for the 6th position right now. We're almost pushing each other around the S's. There you can see it. The Ingersoll Ram car is a lap down. Sorry, that's the one that is on the lead lap, sorry. Then there is the Heusinkveld car, then Maniti, then RSR. This is so close between these guys.
Well, you're half right. The car in front is laps down. The car behind is not. Moreno, Senkowski looking to battle. Senkowski, a huge defensive line. Maniti forced to go to the right side. Trying to peel them off the line. Can't get the grip, though. Senkowski holding on for Team Heusinkveld.
Identical liveries is what I'll blame that on. But a good attempt from Max Riedmuller, at least on the outside line of Team Heusinkveld there. That's the battle for 6th in Division 1. A little bit further down, 8th place in the overall standings. This is where the real action is. I think Max Riedmuller is stuck in a bit of traffic though. I think he is quicker than pretty much everyone around him right now. And he's trying to look for these moves, trying to go through, but just finding it difficult, bogged down in traffic right now.
Here comes Maniti, a daring poke through 130R. Senkowski having to use run-up space for the incident points. Maniti getting squeezed off through the Casio triangle with a tap.
Squeezed just enough. They were given exactly 1 car length to deal with there on the outside line. It's not helped them. It was stern defending from Senkowski there, and now there's going to be an attempt maybe from RSR. Are they going to stay in line and push Maniti back into the group, or are they going to go for this? It looks like they're on the defensive from the Ferrari behind. The straight line speed not looking good there. They will hold on to the place though.
Red Panda of Hutcherson looking to try and move forward. Senkowski trying to settle back in line. Satellite still yet to find a way around the traffic, need to find 3 seconds to get up to their division rivals.
By the way, we saw Delta V Racing in the 260 have to stop under safety car after an incident. They were hit by the 236, who have just been given a warning for hitting someone under the safety car. So that's what happened there.
It rains, it pours sometimes. Senkowski looking to try and see if he can rein forward and rein in this gap. Moreno misses the bottom completely. Here comes Senkowski taking a poke to the left side, not able to make it work through 200R.
He's been able to get very close to the Ingersoll Ram Mercedes very quickly, and he's not brought Max Riedmuller with him either. So he's got that little bit of space to do a little bit of moving, getting in the mirrors a little bit, take some strange lines, and to see if you can work your way through in that way. Out of the spoon curve, they're going to go. The Porsche, though, just struggling for legs in a straight line, really, and might well struggle to overtake the Mercedes as a result, even though he is getting better exits out of these corners.
Better run again, Senkowski. In contact behind, some troubles with spins. No move from Senkowski yet, but it's the RSR by Butt Kicker car who gets moved off the racing line.
I think it might be that curb on the outside line at 130R. It's the main culprit. It's claimed many so far, and it might well have just done another one. Ingersoll Ram defending hard on the inside line and towards turn 1, though. You can just see the Heusinkveld Porsche with not enough straight line speed there to even pull out and try and make a move there. Maniti able to get closer. It's a frustrating moment for Heusinkveld.
And the curb indeed does move RSR off the line. Great job by RSR by Butt Kicker to not slide into traffic, though.
Yeah, fantastic. We always say hold the brakes, don't we? But that was an occasion where not holding the brakes really got them out of trouble there.
So rank cars, both of them starting to struggle a little bit. Satellite Racing getting boxed in up the road. Moreno boxing in Senkowski for Team Heusinkveld. About 12 estimated laps to go up the stripe this time. Senkowski, again, quicker, approaching the hairpin. But again, nowhere to go. Trying to lick the stamp again, nearly hits the back of the 135. He nearly gets hit by Maniti in turn. Hutcherson also on the bumper.
Round really starting to become the cork in the bottle now, and it's becoming more obvious that that is the case with every moment. Right now, less than 25 minutes to go. Heusinkveld need to get a move on, really. This might be all they can get now from this race in terms of Division 1 positions. 5th place might well be the limit. His exits are so good off these corners, but the straight line speed on the Porsche not good enough.
Senkowski trying to line it up with that difference in the marks, though. Reed Moore a little bit quicker. Hutcherson has lost ground on the checkups again. Now hitting a lot of the curbing. Senkowski looking inside to the Casio triangle. Zoran gives some space. Little bit of air contact. Senkowski holds on to it, though. Here comes Maniti looking to push them forward.
They are, and that's it. Oh, very nearly pushed them around as well. Heusinkveld with a big moment on the exit of the Castillo Triangle. We couldn't even see free wide. Riedmuller sees that he's got the straight line speed, wants to go for this. Very decisive from him on the outside line. They're still going to hang it side by side.
How in the world do they avoid contact? Ingersoll Rand still on the right side, nearly hits Maniti. Reed Moore nearly hit Moreno in front of Hutcherson. Ethan Bass now joining in on the front for 10th overall in the midst of the back of the train. 7th through 12th in the field here.
Quite remarkable battle in towards turn 1, 3 wide. Max Riedmuller nearly took 2 places after going through the middle. Carlos Moreno really struggled on the outside line, as he would do in the Ferrari of Red Panda Racing, and Carter Hutcherson nearly got involved as well. What a fantastic fight it was.
Remember, Hutcherson had the contact with Maniti in a similar checkup scenario before, trying to fight for 5 laps through turn 1 with Maniti. Now they're trying the same moves, this time on Ingersoll Rand, not able to get alongside the red and black car yet.
Quite close as this whole group is, although I'd expect Heusinkveld needed to be able to get away as this goes along. Ingersoll Rand continuing to show themselves as being the cork in the bottle here, really.
Yeah, they started off with good speed early, but have fallen off since then. Even with the cooler track conditions, the tempers have stayed fairly hot, to say the least. Hutcherson staying within 2 car lengths this time on the setup. 2 Division 2 cars behind. Again, another bobble and a hit of the curb. Moreno has hit that curb 3 straight laps to the inside of the corner.
Dangerous game through there, it certainly is. We've seen claim many in the past, and may well again. But let's see. Ingersoll Rand showing themselves to be pretty good defensively, really, in that Mercedes, and they are going to be again as Hutcherson doesn't find a way through, and they're going to be even harder to pass now because the slipstream they've got from Maniti Racing will just help them on a little bit as well.
Exactly, and it doesn't help either that Hutcherson's been having to check up a fair bit when he's been close to the bumpers. Right here, for example, earlier in the brakes again for the checkup. In for the grip. No slide through yet. They are also, keep in mind, bringing it to the point where some of the lap cars behind them are about to join the pack. Maniti got a little bit of a grass scrape. Moreno, a little bit of a drip strip. Hutcherson looking to see if there's a way to close this again. All of these drivers looking to see if they can get themselves some more points for the championship. Red Panda Racing nearly to the outside again.
Yeah, lots of points on the line here, especially as we're up in quite high positions right now. Lots of points available. Lots of manufacturers involved here as well in this group, by the way. We've got a couple of, well, we've got 3 Mercedes in the whole group. Satellite Racing at the front in a BMW. We've got a Porsche there, Ferrari, a Ford as well. A fantastic mix of manufacturers here in GT3 Racing at its finest. and Hutchison looking to find a way through, increasing that pressure on Ingersoll Rand again, who are going to be on the defensive and looking in their mirrors once more.
That red Panda with the steering wheel, looking to see if it can get up on the wheel. Looking left, looking back, looking to time it up for the run for the front straightaway this time. Good run coming out of the Casio triangle. There might be a shot here. Defensive line taken by Moreno. Hutcherson right up towards the bumper of the Mercedes-AMG. No defensive line to the right. Taken. Hutcherson takes the inside line and turn. Hutcherson deeper on the brakes. Moves up to the 9th position. But the damage is done. He needs to close up a second to get back to Maniti again.
That is going to be a very difficult second to close as well. Know that there is plenty of opportunities around this circuit to do so, and a lapped car as well, a lapped Mercedes, another Ingersoll Rand car up in front, so that might help, but Hutchison is going to find that difficult, I would say, as he gets through on Ingersoll Rand, and Ethan Bass going to try and do the same. Now, by the way, we've got a leading battle in Division 3 developing right now as Precision Racing Esports having a fantastic restart.
Part of that, they've reeled in JTR. Also, battle for second overall has stayed tight. Locatello has locked in on Santosi's back bumper for the past while or so. Coming to 9 estimated to go. Everyone looking to battle with the points paying positions on the line, to say the very least. At least 2 different battles to keep an eye on. Maybe 3. This is 1. Throw in the battle for 6th. Throw in the battle for the Division 3 lead, 14th overall. You have a fun finish.
It's going to be a finish to this race. And, hopefully an enjoyable one for some in terms of the result. I think Locatello should be able to get through, though, in this battle. There should be 9 laps to go here, and that should be plenty of time for him to be able to make this move for second place, and it would be a decent reward for his efforts here for German sim racing here today. To move up to the slightly worst placed of the 2 in the championship, by the way, and a second place would be their best result of the season, at least in this car.
Extremely helpful, let's put it that way, in the hunt for the championship if they can find a way forward. Put it that way, to be able to keep up with Delta Sport, especially with some of the ramifications through today's round. Still having to keep things positioned, 3/10 the gap still, more dust being kicked up. Santosi continuing to make it difficult. He's held on to second in Division 1 all day today.
And in Division 3, by the way, we've just had a change for the lead. Precision Racing Esports complete their run to the front of the field. What a remarkable restart Nick McLaughlin's having.
Nick McLaughlin picking up powerful amounts of speed. Spencer Ritzma, who had led for the past 40 minutes, zipped by on the outside to turn 1 by McLaughlin. And despite the damage on the 311, they were involved in the incidents on lap 1. They lead the division.
Here's why, or here's how, I should say. A defence from the 345, but it wasn't enough. McLaughlin said, I'll just go around the outside anyway. He drove it so deep into the corner. It seems to be a Mercedes characteristic that he can get away with doing that. And once again, he uses it to his advantage to get through. What a fantastic move it was. As we see that gap open now, must have been a bit of a mistake from Rima there, because Verico Esports are very close behind, and sandwiched in between is Federico Poche there in the Delta V BMW, just looking to complete enough laps to be classified today.
Now right now, Delta V Racing's Poches in 16th overall, Ritzma dropping in quickly. Christoph Reyes is within range as well to take another spot. There comes the peak from the 284 car in the 345. Under 16 minutes to go on the clock. Questions going on of what's going on with Ritzma. He's fallen off by 1 second from his preferred marks. Compare that to McLaughlin, who gained a 10th while being boxed in before the pass.
I think it was a mistake in the first sector. I don't think it's just I don't think it's pace related, but just a mistake. And Poche applying so much pressure here. This is a positional battle. It's the other Delta V racing car that's just looking to get classified in this race. This one still very much up there in terms of getting a decent result, but would really not want to be in this fight for Division 3. And you can see the flashing of the lights there from Poche. Doesn't want to be here any longer, but can't find a way through on the Mercedes.
And it's not an easy situation. Ritzma can't just say, "Olay, here you go." He lets up. Guess who's there? His rivals in the division. Oh, and there's the contact! There goes the spin. Off the track goes Delta V. Into the wall goes Pochez.
Well, damage to the rear end of the BMW once again. It's been a torrid race for Delta V Racing from start to finish. Out of the very second corner of the race, they were spun around and in the wall, and it has not got much better from there. You can see that rear end is very, very loose now as well. There will be a little bit of damage there now as well.
Yeah, on the checkup. What can you say?
Clumsy, really.
So the battle for second overall and second in Division 1 closing up again. Locatello has built up a solid run. Does he take it or is it too early? There's the bobble from Santosi. Santosi goes left, Locatello goes right, too far back in the Casio Triangle.
I think that he should have enough time on his side here and enough pace here, Locatello, but he's not going to be able to do it out of the Casio Triangle this time. Made a sort of attempt, but really just ended up ruining his line onto the front straight, and so will drop back a little bit further. It's a battle, though, that will continue on, as that one behind will as well. Have Heusinkveld finally got enough straight line speed to pull past Ryan Wasilewski in that BMW for Satellite Racing. They were side by side, and I don't think oh no, he was able to just about do it.
That's in the pack behind. We're still keeping an eye on the second overall spots right now. But you are right about Satellite. They had been up by 3 seconds before the traffic. They lost the 3 seconds after the traffic. That's in turn why you see some of the shuffling a bit on the pylon overall time-wise. Still though, these two are running out of time to try and figure this out. Santosi, not been easy to pass today, as we talked about, because he broke away early, broke away to start off the restart. Locatello's had to charge his way through the traffic, and it's taken the caution and the whole race to get here.
Yeah, Locatello has been closing slowly on this About Esports BMW for the majority of the race, really, but not quite closing by enough to make a move really easy. Now that they're nose to tail, they are kind of matching each other. I think that if Locatello was able to get through, then he would get away as well. I'm not saying he would catch Campbell by any means, but he would possibly put distance between himself and his fellow BMW. So the distance and the difference between the pace of these two, just not quite enough at this stage. Locatello is going to have to get inventive and try and find a way through in the final 6 laps.
Here's the difficult part, as that's a little bit too inventive. How do you be inventive without doing something like that? Where do you invent the bad way?
Trial and error, I suppose, but sometimes maybe errors at that corner not a great idea, because it does normally cost you. So he's just going to have to get a little bit closer, get in the mirrors, hope for a mistake, start working on it through the final laps, and then see if he can get there. But I thought it was going to be a bit easier than this, I have to say.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. It can be difficult to pass here. We're seeing that really match itself up with two very equal cars on pace. They were within about 1/10 and a half of each other on the lap time last time by.
Yeah, but the thing that's surprising me is that Locatello isn't able to get a little bit closer here and apply a little bit more pressure to the Seville BMW just up in front. You know, it's all well and good not being able to overtake. We've seen a lot of that so far today, but he's not even really on the back of the car in front anymore.
They're just losing ground for now as we take a look behind. Urkel has already found a way around Spencer Ritzma, so has RSR by butt kicker. Something is wrong with Ritzma's car for him to be this off at the end of this race.
I guess that might make logical sense, but I don't, you know, we haven't seen an incident with him involved. Really think of where he would have picked up damage in the past before this. I've got no idea. Maybe he took too much out of his tyres earlier on and now he's feeling the effects, but it does look like a car losing pace due to damage rather than just tyres falling off. And yeah, that's a real disappointment for them, really. I don't think they're going to fall any further. They've got 5 seconds to fourth.
Yeah, with 10 minutes to go, it might be a decent buffer, but the thing to consider, they've lost 3 seconds already to McLaughlin. Alvando's had a very rough day, we'll say, as well with some of the slides. We've seen him already on the circuit this run. Right back where they started, 16th overall. Not the way RSR by Bucker, I think, expected this day to go as they battled the Division 3 car.
Really, a little bit differently to expected, but I think a lot of teams will be thinking the same. RSR maybe could have made a dive down the inside there, but didn't want to. With Verico Esports in a pretty high placing at the moment in Division 3. This is a battle for a legitimate position on the road, but for 15th. The Division 3 cars have gotten a long way up the field here today because of the attrition that we've seen.
Yeah, an attrition mark for drivers in double-digit points or more than a couple positions that really shuffled upward to about 13th, where you start seeing the double-digit big movers. Sankowski up +6, +7 Locatello. Most of the others qualified up front, stayed at the front. Even Hutcherson with the drive-through penalty is back to 8th position overall in this race. Cream rises to the top, you could say.
Yeah, certainly. Even though we spoke about how difficult it is to move through the field here, it's a talent like that will always win out. It's got such a variety of tracks on the schedule, though. From what we've seen last race at Bellar was so different to this circuit, which is so different to the next one at Monza, which is going to be a real slipstream battle, really. And as Daytona was earlier on in the season. So it's a real mix, and Bathurst at the end, to have a finale at Bathurst is going to be quite something to witness. But I've got to say, I'm pretty sure, based on my calculations, that Sean Campbell can clinch the championship at the next round with 2 rounds to go. That's how dominant he's been so far.
I mean, it's hard to beat somebody who wins half the season's races.
4 out of 5. Yeah. Oh yeah, it will be 4 at half of them already. We haven't even done 3 of them yet. So yeah, you're right. 4 in a row. Pretty unbelievable.
It's still under 8 minutes to go. A lot can happen over the course of 4 estimated laps. The gap, after all, still about 4 or 5 seconds. Hondo's boxed in behind Division 3 P2. Carl Esports needs a way to find 3 seconds to get back up to Nick McLaughlin, though. McLaughlin running 2:01.9s last time in clean space. Christoph Reyes, who's been fighting 2:01.5, not going to do it at 2:10s as we look up the road to Maniti.
I think McLaughlin will have enough there in Division 3. This battle certainly not settled for 7th overall between Max Riedmuller and Carter Hutcherson. But I think 7th place is the best that either of them can hope for in this race. But it's so remarkable to see how this race has changed. Just after the pit stop phase we saw, none of the gaps were within 5 seconds, but now all 3 of them are in the 3 divisions. It's closed up dramatically after the safety car. We've had great battles in the final half an hour, and this one for 7th should be no different. I think Hutcherson may well have enough here, although not many laps to work on a move.
Remember the last time Hutcherson worked on a move on Riedmuller? They spun around coming through turns 1 and 2, and then, well, yeah, recovery drives for both of them to get back to about the same spots. Hutcherson nearly to the back bumper of Riedmuller again. 3 estimated to go, 6 minutes on the clock. How does Hutcherson play this, especially knowing that he's already spun this car once?
Well, just try and apply as much pressure as possible and then take the first opportunity you have. Let's not forget what happened the last time these two battled in towards turn number 2. Hutcherson went for that over and under move and it didn't work. It resulted in both of them spinning and a penalty for the Red Panda Racing Ferrari. He's got to avoid that here with 5 minutes to go. A penalty after the safety car would affect him even more than the earlier one did. So he really has to be careful here, and hopefully he's learnt his lesson that move at turn 2 maybe is not the right one.
Looking for the roll to get to the bumper again. Having to check up though, hit a bit of the curbing. In fact, he checked up so hard. Only a few more chances to go with about 5 minutes left on the clock. 7th overall on the racetrack.
3 laps to go, including this one now for these two. As I mentioned, 7th place, what they're fighting over right now, is probably the most that they can hope for without any issues for anybody up ahead here. Though Sean Campbell's lost just over a second there. He seems to be going fine again now, but 4 seconds the lead up front, a lot closer here, not even 4/10. It does look like it's going to be a very nervy final moments for Maniti Racing.
Yeah, Maniti ripping the wheel hard, lap traffic ahead. WS Racing, remember, started 3rd in line on the restart. They've been lapped by the entire field again. It's not been a good day for that Porsche. They get zipped on by. No impact to this battle.
Absolutely. It's going to have to happen into turn 1, I think, based on what we saw earlier on. Hutchison wasn't really strong enough to get up the inside or even attempt into the Cassia Triangle, although maybe he will just think about this a little bit differently after the incident earlier on. He's tucked right in the slipstream now, but the difficulty is having a good 130R when you're so close like this. You're not going to go for a move here, but you've got to set yourself up for the chicane, and it's just really hard to do that when you're the following car.
2 estimated to go, near contact for a moment. Hutcherson, though, a little bit better on the grip. Looking to try and go a little bit wider on the run, still needing to close 2-3 car lengths. Have a true shot of the lunge. Sedkowski has already broken away by nearly 2 seconds from this fight for what would be 5th overall. So this is the highest they can go for 6th.
Now, Riedmuller does seem to have enough right now. He seems to be fast in the right places. He's gone through 130R and the Cassia Triangle. It's meaning that Hutchison can't get close, but he can get close through the S's. Riedmuller just missed the apex there. He's not as strong through here by the looks of things. And so that's where the pressure really is heaped upon him, but there's literally no way you can go here. It's one line through here. Very difficult to go side by side if you even got alongside anyway.
And not a lot of good places left to try and lunge. Reedmore a lot better this time to the Dagner curves. Time is ticking. About 2:30 to go on the clock. Expecting the white flag this time by for Campbell. One of the closest battles on the track. Keep in mind, Nick McLaughlin has been reeled in by RSR by Buttkerker in Veronco Esports. So the 324 is within spitting distance for the Division 3 lead as well.
I think the best that Hutchison can hope for here is a mistake from Max Riedmuller, which looks very unlikely to come right now. 2 minutes to go. He's not really making any sort of inroads. He's even getting further away from that Mercedes as we watch this battle further. Fascinating once again to stay with this for a long time and just see people sizing up their opponents and seeing which way they can make a move. Thankfully, it's not ended in a spin like the last one did between these two. Been a bit cleaner this time, but it's been impossible for Hutchison to get through as of so far. Oh.
Impossible the final lap, a hard block. Hutcherson near into the wall. Hutcherson all over the track.
What is he doing? He's weaving around like nobody's business at the moment.
Not sure what happened there. He was all over the place there. I'm not sure what that was.
He was, as he came over the line there, he was shaking the car side to side, almost as if they were coming to the checkered flag there, not the white flag.
I think they might realize they have a minute to go on the clock. Now he has to regroup himself again.
Well, I have to say, I think his best opportunity is now behind him because of all that.
Down to the final 45 seconds on the clock. Expected this to be the final time around. Campbell has led 43 of 53 laps today. 10 laps originally led by German Sim Racing. You know he does it again. What is going on here?
This is the weirdest battle I've ever seen. Riedmuller off, and the Ferrari just weaving around with no interest of getting anywhere near at all.
Something has to be up for Hutcherson to be weaving around like this.
You'd see that in real life. Someone's out of fuel, they're trying to get some fuel picked up, but that's obviously not happening.
Yep. We'll have to wait and see what happens now as they get to the end of the clock here. Up at the front of the field, Sean Campbell has been outright dominant once again, taking the lead after 10 laps. He takes off and runs away with his 4th straight victory in the IVRA GT Sprint Series powered by Heusinkveld.
Total dominance again from Sean Campbell, and he'll have a chance at Monza to clinch the title with 2 rounds to go. What an amazing performance and amazing season he's having.
Division 2 went by Florian Hohen from the launch, still holds on to a top 5 overall in this one. Division 3 still not fully over. Precision Racing Esports still has a Division 1 car as a buffer. Nick McLaughlin from a crash on lap 1 to a victory at Suzuka.
A great drive from Nick McLaughlin. I have to say, I thought it was going to be between Verico and the 345, but Nick McLaughlin just came up through the field and overtook everybody to take the win in Division 3. Great drive from him, very, very impressive in what's been a very, very topsy-turvy day in Division 3. The championship now completely all over the place in that one, with the leaders finishing way down.
So, Sean Campbell take the victory, still waiting for 2 more cars to finish before the results get in-sim finalized. All results will be unofficial pending race control review. Echelon, second last across, and Vector Sim Racing, give credit to Aaron Smith. After his wheel disconnected and brought up the safety car, he still comes away in 30th, 4 laps down. And that, in turn, last car, it looks like, crossed the stripe here today. That may be TR Geeks Energy Sim Racing. Either way, the field coming to a close here.
Yeah, it's a good race, but we're getting some information through about people guessing what Carter Hutchison was thinking on that last lap. Apparently, might have not been pleased with a block towards the end, but I didn't see any block that was really out of line. I don't know.
Well, they made contact once before. You don't want to make more contact. Let's take a look at the unofficial race results. Campbell, Santosi, Locatello, and Brizik, the top 4, all Division 1, then a dominating Division 2 run. Florian Hohen and German Sim Racing's Division 2 entry today. They win their class by 4 seconds. Sitkowski, Reed Moore, and Hutcherson the top 8. Then it's Wachaleski with Satellite in 9th. Nicholas Schaefer quietly for Deutsche Payment. Stayed around that spot all day, and 10th they end up. Ethan Bass drove the Ford up to 11th in the end, with Moreno after having some struggles in the mid-runs today for Ingersoll Rand in 12th. Shirley in Division 2 quietly went up to 13th, while Nick McLaughlin, after being involved in the lap 1 incidents that sent him off to the grass, put him 28 seconds back along with Hamilton. Still able to come back and win the class by 3 seconds. Found a little wedgie between him and Reyes, then it's May from Division 1 and 17th. Ritzma, what could have been? He had a big cushion at one point for the class. Instead, he loses by 6 seconds. Then it is Rusty Spatulas from a crash to the pit lane. And World of Sim Racing team the top 20. 21st spot today going to Pochez. Then it's Ferrari, Deutschman, and Hardsboard. Hardsboard with a couple penalties, as well as Deutschman for Geeks Energy Sim Racing on their team debut. They both finish on the lead lap with Ingersoll Ram being 1 lap down, with Chris Chatterton's Pastrana Nomad 208 car back there as well. Dustin Smith, the last car, 1 lap down. Then it's Fowers Motorsports, iLiveries, and Vector Sim Racing, top 30. Behind them in the order today was WS Racing Esports, 5 laps down. Then Pastrana Nomad, 6 laps down, along with P1 Esport. Quasar Sim Racing and Make Performance Jr. followed by the V Racers 333 and Delta V Racing. 26 laps down, a couple penalties today. Santa Nomad having troubles with the 256 with Dilworth today. Also an early end of the day for Dinatell after having to serve a drive-through early. Zini finished in 40th after crashes sparking a sequence for Meg's performance. RD Simsport quietly ends the race 44 laps down in 41st, but Team Heusinkveld's 248 after several slides, finishing 42nd. Olympus and Precision Racing Esports' Division 1 car only makes it a few laps before being out of the race. Sean Campbell, 4 straight victories, overall and division-wise, and it's been a dominating stretch for the Delta Simsport driver. Sean Campbell prepared all week for this race. Sean, you've now won half the season's races, 4 straight wins on the trot. What can you say? You dominated again to end the round today.
I don't know, I felt really comfortable with the car. 130R is like the only place I think the car just, it's the Porsche, you know, it's just going to feel wonky through there. But enough preparation, I guess. It felt good. It felt comfortable. I felt like I was in the zone.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about this a little bit. You told fellow competitors for PRL in the Xfinity Series side you were going to miss that race preparing for this one today. How difficult was that preparation for Suzuka today?
I think I made it through 130R for the first time after about 2 days.
Why was it difficult to go through 130R?
So I don't know if it has to do with the way the Porsche's suspension works. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think I'm right in saying most of the other cars you lift in 130R because it understeers. In the Porsche, you lift, but it's because it oversteers. If you try to take it flat, it will just spin out. And you might be able to not hit the curb, but if I hit the curb, because if I don't, I spin out. It's tough, but it's unique, right? Like, it's fun.
Well, on that mark, half the victories this campaign have gone your direction. Mathematically, you have a shot possibly to lock up the championship at Monza. Your approach then, with a chance to re-clinch it, closing up with 3 rounds to go.
I think I'm just going to try and keep doing what I got to do. Finish ahead of the people that are behind me, and nobody else, I guess, hopefully.
Well, congratulations on a 4th straight victory, Sean. Been a dominant season.
Thanks.
That's Sean Campbell. Very enthused on winning 4 races in a row. Nick McLaughlin, very likely to be enthused as well. The Division 3 winner from being in the grass on lap 1 to victory lane. He's with Ewan.
Nick, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here again. And a great ride through the field as well. Unseen by us a little bit, but we did see right at the end taking the lead. Just how was the safety car restart there, and how much did it kind of help you win that race as well?
Oh man, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, the Spencer in the 345, there was no way I was catching them, I think, without the safety. Both first and second were driving a great race, and I don't know, after the safety car, it was clicking and just made it work.
And just, we were speaking a lot throughout the race, and actually before the race, just on how difficult it was to overtake. It looked like it was from where we were. I expected it to be, but what was it like for a driver? You obviously found a way to do it, but how was it?
It was tough. Anyone with similar pace, I just really struggled to get around them. I managed, I think I made both my moves into turn 1. Felt really stuck through there with the setup, so I took my run and made it work.
Absolutely. 2nd race win of the season. Congratulations, Nick, once again on a great drive through the field, especially after the safety car. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you again in the next round.
Thanks, guys. Could I thank some people?
Of course.
Shout out to wife and family and my daughter who are all watching, and then of course Precision Racing League and our sponsors, Advanced Sim Racing, Racebox, Butt Kicker, Mechasim, Race Lab, Ninja Trader, and newly added Moradness.
Look forward to seeing the PRL on later on tonight on RaceSpotTV. Congratulations, Nick, on your victory here this morning. I guess it is still just about. Yeah, congratulations. Enjoy the win.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, Nick McLaughlin there, victorious in Division 3.
And I'd like to take the time to thank them for taking the time to speak with us, and in your final thoughts on what was a very wild day at Suzuka, much more wilder than the expectations coming in, everyone decided to have a wild time before the pit stops, and then it was even more wilder to end it.
Yeah, I did think that it would be a difficult watch at times, actually, because of the difficulty to overtake. GT3s around here, I do feel are sometimes a little bit frustrating to watch, and I find them frustrating to drive around here as well sometimes, but they really produce for us, the drivers really produce for us today in terms of racing, in terms of battling, championships thrown on their heads, possible deciders coming up at the next round at Monza as well, so more twists and turns in this series once again, and I'm sure there'll be more on the 2nd of April.
Yes, indeed. 2 April races on the docket after the new build coming up next month. It's Monza on the docket right after April's Day. Who will try and be able to come away with the victory? Be sure to tune in that day to see what's expected to be a very intriguing 6th round of the season. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For our broadcast partner today, Ubin O'Leary, for our producer Hugo Wees, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the IVRA GT Sprint Series, powered by Heusinkveld. Good night.